Gaming news today is all about exciting things on the horizon. First, the GTA 6 Trailer 3 rumor mill is heating up, and for good reason. Those with a history of being accurate are basically making predictions at a particular date and week for the next GTA 6 trailer, and this isn't the first time that they've said this. Second, we have big news about the next God of War game, and I'm not talking about Laufey. There will be another mainline God of War. Nobody's really surprised by that, but it will feature Kratos. Those that want a game with Kratos will see this as welcome news, but there's a bit of a catch, and that's related to our third story. Third, God of War Laufey has a release date, but it's got many gamers noticing another trend for game releases on next year's calendar. So if you're in the live stream right now, make sure and hit like and subscribe. Sorry about the very, very late start. We've had some scheduling things this week because we will be out of town. I basically will only be able to stream and create content today. I thought we were going to be able to do today and tomorrow. Not going to work out. Sorry about that. This week is a bit of a bumble for us. We're trying to go out of town. My wife just got back in town. It's chaos. Everything will resume as normal next week, which is perfect timing. That's right when things are about to heat up with game releases. So apologies to everybody. That's your PSA for the morning before we get into these news stories. If you're watching this later, hit like and subscribe. And taking a week off is never a great thing as a creator, so be sure you're maintaining your memberships and your subs on the channel. That does help me do this full time. So let's just start with the first one, because this one is obviously the one that's got people talking. Look, we know the timeline. Pre-orders went live on June 25th, and now we're staring down the barrel of a November 19th release date for GTA 6. We're literally months away from the biggest entertainment launch in history, and right now, well, the fans are getting restless. There is absolute radio silence from Rockstar, except for announcements and things about their other games, so the community's going a little nuts. They're analyzing shadows in the key art. I even saw somebody drawing the Roman numerals on past game key art of other GTAs, and they did it to one of the latest pics of Jason and Lucia. But today, we're looking at exactly when we could expect GTA 6 Trailer 3, and also kind of looking at when we think we'll start to see some gameplay. And yes, the 60 frames per second question is still hanging in the air. More and more folks weighing in. We did a debate about that last week on the channel. So let's just start with the date that everyone is now circling on their calendars, August the 6th. Now, this prediction is coming from insider Tom Henderson, and honestly, if you follow the money and the corporate strategy, it does make perfect sense. To his credit, Tom has been pointing to August for a while. Back when I was like, ooh, I think it's going to be this week, or I thought they were going to reveal the trailer right before pre-orders, Tom kept saying August. Now, some of us keep hoping that it happens around an earnings call, and we ended up being wrong, and that's why people are picking August the 6th, because August the 7th is a Take-Two Interactive Q1 earnings call. Now, if you look at Rockstar and Take-Two's historical playbook, they do like to have their financial narratives, pretty locked in. They don't want to leave it to chance. They commonly like to big drop marketing beats right before they get on the phone with investors. It dominates the news cycle, it inflates the stock hype, and it gives the executives an easy shield to wave during their Q&A sessions. August 6th Trailer 3 drop perfectly aligns with that corporate strategy. But remember, this is an educated prediction based on industry patterns. This is not a leaked thing. This is not an internal roadmap. Tom's not claiming that he knows anything, and he's not the only one that was looking at August. Many people started, looking at August and saying that they thought that's when it was going to be, because they were looking at essentially the pattern with the summer being when marketing is supposed to heat up, as well as when the next earnings call will be. But here's the real issue, and it's why so many fans are starting to get frustrated. Where is the actual gameplay? We're just now less than half a year away from the game's release, and we haven't really seen any GTA 6 gameplay. Trailer 1 in December, Trailer 2 in May, that we've had historically up to now, they were visually stunning, but these are cinematic mood pieces. We have millions of people who have already thrown down their pre-order money, and we haven't even seen what the heads-up display looks like. We haven't seen a gunfight. We haven't seen the driving physics in action. I mean, this is all allegedly in-engine, but we don't exactly know what that's going to feel like once the controller's in our hands. Selling a game on pure vibes works when you're Rockstar, but we're entering a window where cinematic teases just aren't going to cut it anymore. We need to see gameplay, which brings us to the other elephant in the room. When we finally see that gameplay, how is it going to run? Just last week, I did a reaction and a debate about this very subject. Many are hoping for a 60 FPS performance mode, while others are advising caution, along with just doubt that it's even possible or going to happen, even with the PS5 Pro. Now, if you've read through some of the deep dives from places like Digital Foundry, the consensus is not hopeful. They tend to think that a 60 FPS mode on current consoles is highly unlikely. And the harsh truth is, we won't really know until they speak specifically to it. And even if they drop a trailer and they actually let us see gameplay, many trailers run at 30 FPS, so we won't be able to determine much until they actually speak to it. So for now, we wait. Will the GTA 6 Trailer 3 drop on August the 6th? Will it feature actual gameplay? Will we get a definitive answer about performance prior to launch? I think 2 of these are more likely than all 3. I could see the next trailer actually deciding to showcase some gameplay, and I do think Tom Henderson's prediction is pretty good. But he isn't the only one eyeing August for GTA 6 marketing heating up. We've heard that month thrown around quite a bit. So I want to hear from you. Drop a comment down below. Does 30 FPS cap mean a game in 2026 is kind of a skip for you, or is the insane simulation depth in the world building worth the trade-off? And do you buy that August the 6th is the date for Trailer 3? And are they finally going to show us that gameplay? Let me know in the comments below. Get that debate going. And hey, if you want to have a lively debate, be sure to swing by one of my live streams. And we've got some other news, and this is welcome news for fans of God of War, especially if you were paying attention to Comic-Con. Well, Kratos is back, but there's a catch. You're going to have to go through Faye first, literally and figuratively. And right now, the community is a bit divided. Some of the fan base have literally stated they are not interested in the upcoming God of War Laufey game, just outright refusing to play a game that's called God of War, where you don't play as Kratos. With a few people even saying in my comments, you know what, I'm just going to watch all the Laufey cutscenes on YouTube. But I think that treating Laufey like an optional side quest and taking the YouTube summary route is like cutting off your nose to spite your face. Because if we break this down, this is what we know about Laufey. It's dropping on February the 16th of 2027, and Santa Monica Studio wants you to know that it's not a spin-off. The premise of the story, I think, is actually pretty dope. Faye is navigating the everywhen, essentially the afterlife where gods go when they die. And the plan is that she left these things behind to be happening in Midgard to protect Kratos and Atreus, and that's happening sort of at the same time, maybe. We don't really know how time works in the everywhen. And she now, while she's there, has to fight her way through an entirely new pantheon from the other side. It's going to have the opportunity for lots of different gods from lots of different pantheons showing up. Now, we also have theories of when Faye makes a potential crossover appearances in God of War 2018 as well as Ragnarok. There's the mystery person who blows the horn in 2018, or when Kratos is gone for moments but it's hours for Atreus, or when Kratos sees her in his dreams or hears her in Ragnarok. This is not DLC, this is not filler. At the SDCC panel, Cory Barlog made it crystal clear. He said, listen, everything we are doing in the Faye game is a, quote, continuation of what came before and to set up and expand what comes next. Now, Santa Monica is treating this game as, a mandatory foundational bedrock for Kratos' next chapter. But for some fans, that just doesn't matter. And look, I get it. Kratos isn't just the main character. He is the God of War in these games. For many years, fans have bought these games for a very specific, visceral experience. Folks are invested in his past, his rage, and even the growth and change that he showed over the Norse saga. When you buy or you want a new God of War game, you have expectations. So hearing that we are pivoting from that to playing as Faye, hanging out with a glowing cosmic cube named Frank, well, it sounds like a bit of whiplash. On paper, it sounds like a completely different franchise. But if you are completely checking out, I think you're missing out on an excellence in game design and storytelling that we can come to expect from Santa Monica. And it being tied to the next mainline game with Kratos, well, it gives all the more reason to trust them, especially when we heard this was planned all the way back during the production of God of War 2018. Because listen, the truth is this, they've created a bit of a catch-22, and I think the whole watch on YouTube strategy is going to backfire. During the same SDCC panel, Barlog bluntly told the crowd, quote, "Everything in the game is setting up for something so amazing." Now, Santa Monica Studios' biggest strength isn't just their combat, it's their emotional storytelling. The next Kratos game isn't just a random new adventure, it is tethered to whatever Faye ends up doing in the Everywhen. If you don't actually play through her struggle and her story, the emotional payoff of Kratos' return won't feel as potent. And that's the real trick here. Those who play Laufey will feel the return of Kratos in a stronger way than those who just watch a cutscene summary. If you skip Faye's game, I think you are robbing yourself of the emotional context that is going to fuel Kratos' next game. To put it another way, okay, you won't be playing the next God of War game, you'll be playing the second half of a story that you never started. So now it's a waiting game. Santa Monica's taking a bit of a gamble, betting on the story that they've crafted for Faye and that it'll be strong enough to carry the franchise until the Ghost of Sparta returns. But I want to hear from you. Tell me where you stand in the comments. Is the legacy of Kratos simply too important to sideline, so you're going to wait for his return? Or are you buying Laufey day one to get the full story? Well, let me know in the comments below, and be sure to stop by one of my live streams. But that's not the only thing going on here with Laufey. I actually think there's a potential problem with the Laufey release date. So let's talk about it. So San Diego Comic-Con is just wrapped, and Sony Santa Monica finally dropped a lot of news. One surprise, God of War Laufey is officially launching on February the 16th, 2027. You're going to get to play as Faye through the afterlife of the gods. Sounds pretty dope. Cory Barlog confirmed that the next Kratos game is going to plug directly into it. Well, that sounds even better. But while everybody's hyping up February the 16th, I'm looking at the calendar, and I feel like I'm having future deja vu. Because February of 2027 isn't just a release window anymore, it's another month being stuffed to the gills with games. And I don't think it's a coincidence. This logjam is a direct shockwave caused by one massive industry-breaking event, Rockstar dropping GTA 6 in November. Now, I even think that Laufey was actually meant to land in November of 2026 when GTA 6 was originally planned for May. But let's talk about the scale of this problem. God of War Laufey isn't just some indie darling, it's going to be a big AAA blockbuster. The 20-minute gameplay reveal trailer is closing in on 9 million views on the PlayStation YouTube channel. It's officially putting it in the big leagues of announcements over there. And the mid-February release date is not a quiet stage, because they are not alone. Q1 of 2027 is suddenly packed to the brim with heavyweight titles, and the question we have to ask is simple. Why? Why did this happen? Normally the fall, October, November, and December, is the undisputed king of game releases. It's the holiday season. It's when publishers make their money. So why is every publisher suddenly terrified of the fall? Well, enter GTA 6 and what many are calling the GTA 6 black hole. November the 19th of 2026 isn't just a game release, it's going to be a cultural event. But for the rest of the industry, it's basically a natural disaster. Think about the boardroom logic here. If you're a publisher with a massive game slated for Q4 2026, you look at Rockstar and you probably feel a little bit of a panic. Any game releasing within 60 days of GTA 6 could be completely starved of oxygen. Media coverage, social media trends, player budgets, well, all those factors, they weigh into the calculus of the attention economy that games have to launch into right now. So some have delayed their games and pushed into early 2027. The problem with that is lots of publishers had the exact same idea, so Q1 of 2027 went from being a safe haven to a hyper-competitive window. God of War Laufey isn't launching into a vacuum. It's launching in the middle of a traffic jam entirely caused by Rockstar Games. And you will be hard-pressed to get folks to move as they want their big sales and their revenue to come in right before the end of the fiscal period. Which brings us to the new problem that we as gamers have to solve. Because the industry shifts, well, it hits our wallets and our free time directly. Let's just start with the budget squeeze. Modern AAA games are $70 at a minimum. When 4 massive games drop in a 3-week window, well, you can't buy all of them. Well, I mean, you can, but most won't. Most consumers have to pick a favorite. They try to avoid spoilers on Twitter, and they pray the rest go on a sale by the summer. And then there's time bankruptcy. Free time is the real currency here. Whatever game you choose to play means that there's another game that you are not playing, and it goes into the backlog. And this also can cause a secondary effect. It sort of stymies the cultural conversation. Like when everybody's watching a new show or they're talking about a new movie on Twitter, forums, and in videos and live streams, that can be great for that piece of property. And it can be really fun for all of us in that conversations. Well, games can have a similar effect. Well, it's hard to do that, though, when it feels like some months we're getting big releases every 6 or 7 days. Not to mention how some games may get completely overshadowed and drowned if they don't navigate their marketing well and get strong consumer buy-in. So, I turn it over to you. How are you going to handle these flash floods on the calendar? What games are you prioritizing over the rest? Well, let me know in the comments below, and be sure to swing by one of my live streams. So good morning and good afternoon and good evening, guys. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it, and it is a Monday, and sadly this will be the only show you get this week. My schedule got a little crazy, and I just don't have any way around it. And Arkham Games is going to kick things off. That's the first gifted of the week. We'll see just how high you guys can get the goal, given that you have one day to do it. We missed the goal last week. So not a great way to go into a week off, but we'll see what we can do today. Ginger hits a 5-bomb during the show open, and I've got Damien, Zyber, and Kardoc Ren. I got 3 on Twitch to thank. 59 months for Kardoc Ren, 27 months for Zyber Sword, and 9 months for Damien. Thank you, boys, for renewing your memberships over there, over here on Twitch. We greatly appreciate it. So many games now landing in February. Why are you going to do this to me? What am I going to do for my week of work? Yeah, sorry. Hilly says, 1 day, 500, let's go. Yeah. Let's cut to the chase. How you see Fable doing with God of War Cube coming out? Yo, CM Wright, thanks for 58 months in a VIP, getting us to 10 already. And then C. Lou's going to come in and do 39 months in a Member Plus. Thank you so much. I mean, listen... The issue is cool supervillain shirt. Yeah. The heroes are just down here. You just can't see them as easily. Here's the issue. Okay, I don't know how much these games overlap, but we know that Xbox is suddenly in a scenario where sales matter, and they're looking at studios and budgets and layoffs and divestitures, and they're needing games to sell well. Well, we know that Fable and other games coming to PlayStation, they're hoping that they do well and have good presence over there. That's not a great window of time, to be bringing a game to PlayStation when they're dropping a new God of War game. Now, is that going to hurt Fable significantly? I don't think so, but it's hard not to imagine that when you're looking at the release calendar, you don't want to be up against a big first-party PlayStation title. I mean, as an example, Phantom Blade Zero moved. Phantom Blade Zero moved. Phantom Blade Zero was going to be a week before Wolverine. Those homies moved. Now, they could say it was for development purposes or whatever, but they're more willing to be close to November than they're willing to be close to Wolverine. And I think some of that's because of just the market congruence of well, if we're going to be landing on PlayStation and getting a lot of those advertisements and a lot of those, marketing pushes, we don't want to be up against Wolverine. They're going 3 weeks before GTA 6. So they did the calculus, and they thought that 3 weeks before GTA 6 was better than 1 week before Wolverine. I don't know. It's if you're going to land on PlayStation, you probably don't want to be up against one of their big first-party studios. You don't want to be up against a Wolverine, a God of War, a Horizon, or something like that, or anything from Insomniac or Santa Monica or Naughty Dog. there's probably historical precedent for them to be like, yeah, you don't want to do that. That's not a good window of time, because people are probably starting to look at the calendar and saying, dude, there's too many games launching right on top of each other. That's happening in September this year, and now February starting to stack up next year. So I don't necessarily think like, oh, we should be worried for Fable or whatever, but I personally don't think Fable was going to do all that well anyway. I don't think it looks that great unless they can really, really do something transformative. I don't know if it's going to have the pull that people think it's going to have. If they can pull off the RPG elements and the morality and all that, I think people might find it to be a very compelling, RPG to say, hey, you can actually go in here and buy a house and get married and do all this stuff. But I just don't know. I don't know if it's ever had strong pull in the public with the trailers and the gameplay. It's honestly, it's been a very inconsistent showing. I'll be honest with you. I think that makes it hard for people to be excited, because it's like it's hard to get like a temperature gauge on the game itself. You go from these trailers that look like sort of hard to believe to now that we're actually getting looks at gameplay. And it's like, it looks fine. It doesn't look bad. I hope you're able to get Alana Pierce on the show when Laufey is out. Yeah, I could try and get in contact with her to see if she'd like to come on the show. That would be really fun to pick her brain about like the writing process and what it was like to not be able to talk about it all this time. Malice One says, I can't lie, I've been waiting for Fable for way longer, so depending on how long the game is will determine when I jump into any other game. There are definitely people looking forward to Fable. I'm not going to act like Fable doesn't have people that want to play it. I just don't know within the market itself, is it going to be a title that everybody is sort of clamoring for? I just don't know. Again, if you're trying to gauge like the temperature of like how good or qualitative the game is, their showings have been really inconsistent, and I think that's a problem. You had so many cinematic trailers that made the game look crazy good, and I kept cautioning people. I was like, that's all simulated. We need to see gameplay. We finally see gameplay, and I'm like, it's fine. It's not bad. Yo, what's good, Technically T? How are you, brother? Listen, I'm going to warn you guys, if you follow this guy on Twitter, don't get on Twitter when you're hungry. You know what I mean? This homie's out here just making amazing food all of the time. And I'm like, why are you putting this on the deal? I was like, I'm on my couch trying to not snack. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to eat better. And this guy's just like, check this out. I'm doing a brisket. You both have a fellow connection with your same best friend. Yeah. I'm sure Rahul considers me his best friend. Haley says, I think that's fair. I'm looking forward to Fable coming out, but I haven't pre-ordered because I'm not sure what it will be. Unlike Gears and Halo, we got to look at both. I think that is a pretty big difference. Gears, that was a very, very lengthy amount of gameplay. I love your t-shirt. Thank you. I like that, dude. I like when they show you a lot of gameplay. They did it with Spider-Man 2. They did it with Wolverine. They did it with Laufey. They did it with Gears of War E-Day. I love when you get a nice, just uncut look at a game. I think it makes it a lot easier to do, like a temperature gauge. Like, where's this game going to land? How's it going to be? Lono shirt looking like September and February release schedules. It's true. It's true. When I saw the release end of February, I was like, wait a minute, aren't there a bunch of other games already in February? Santa Monica's like, we don't care. We'll just do it. Just throw another shrimp on the Barbie, as they say. Very good move on them announcing a new Kratos-led God of War leading up to Laufey's release. And here's the thing. I really, really do think people are cutting off their nose to spite their face. It's like, where's the trust, and what are you really a fan of? Like, this idea that, like, if it's not Kratos, I'm not playing it, and I'm like, okay, wait, let's just hang on a minute. If you liked 2018, and you liked Ragnarok, okay, if you like those games, and you like the story, I don't know how you like those games and don't get really enthralled and invested in the story, because it's basically half of the game. It's like half amazing gameplay, and then the other half is a really good story. So it's like, how are you a fan of those games, and you know what Santa Monica's capable of, and you're like, woman, no, I'm not play as woman. I'm like, what the, huh? Where's the trust? Where is the trust? These guys make amazing games. And they're like, listen. We've been planning this since 2018. They approached Deborah Ann Wall, like, all the way sometime between then and Ragnarok, like, about doing a game, right? It's Deborah Ann Wall. Like, I don't know if you've seen her interacting with fans. She's about as charming and as sweet as they come. She seems so genuine, and like, she's behind this, and she's got passion for this kind of nerdy stuff, man. She does friggin' D&D. It's like, what are we talking about here? So it's like, and now we learn that this is just a precursor to the next Kratos story. Come on, boys. Yeah, there's no way you're a fan of Santa Monica in these games and you're like, yeah, I'll watch a YouTube summary, you know. Thank you, Nova, with a Prime, 45 months. I just don't get it. It makes no sense. I think that's what it is, Hidden Siryu. I really do. I think there's so many people that, like, they're literally just in the fight because they like the fight. It's like they couldn't tell you a single story element of 2018 or Ragnarok. They couldn't tell you a single thing that happens. You know, they don't know her significance at all. They don't know that, like, Kratos talks about how she fought beautifully. And, like, she was feared. People were scared of her. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. It's also weird that you're going to go, like, into these mythical places. It doesn't look like her. Yeah, it does. We've done side-by-sides. That's just bait. Like, it 100% looks like her. Taking awkward screenshots, you know what I'm saying? We did side-by-sides of screenshots from Daredevil and the game. And somebody in chat literally got tricked the one day. They thought the one picture was the real picture. Like, and it was from the game. The side-by-sides are undeniable. Like, you can literally overlay her face with the face in the game. People are literally just trying to claim things they know aren't true. She's a giant. It feels more like the well, I mean, that's the thing, though. There are definite people in the mix that are, like, making the content, but, like, I don't think most of the people saying, like, I had people in my comments. I don't really care about the grifters. Like, they have a narrative. They have become a constant in the conversation. They say the same thing about every game. They follow the same titling and thumbnail rules. They're boring to me. They're not even interesting anymore. Okay. They're a circus show. Like, I don't care what they say. I had people in my comments that were like, yeah, I'm going to have to watch a YouTube video because they're going to want to know what the frick happens. You know what I mean? They're going to want to know what happens, and they're going to be forced. They were literally saying, I'll watch a YouTube summary. 64 months and a VIP plus from my man Behemoth. Thanks for the 64 months. Thank you so much, Behemoth. So, that was what was surprising to me. I'm like, okay, you're apparently a fan of Kratos. You want to play the next Kratos game, and I'm not even going to play the game. I'm going to watch a YouTube video. I'm like, man, you're missing out, bro. Like, I can't imagine. I'm a fan of games. That's all I'm just playing games. My wife was out of town over the weekend. I'm at like 14 or 15 hours in Black Flag and just loving it. I'm like, this is just such a fun game. It's such a good game. A couple of times I was like, my boat's too weak. So I did a little bit of grinding there, beefed up the boat and having a great time. All these real gamers out here doing anything but playing games. That's what I'm saying, dude. I'm like, I don't know what y'all are playing. That's weird to me that you would not play a game. It's especially weird for a handful of reasons. She's literally the thing that you want when a company decides to do a game and they decide to do a female lead. You couldn't ask for a better lead. You couldn't. It's like, it's Deborah Ann Wall. So, massive cred points immediately. She's a gamer, right? She does D&D. She's super dope. she seems as sweet as they come. Like, she seems super genuine in the interviews and when she meets fans and stuff. She, as a person, it's like, how could you not be excited that she's the one involved, okay? Second, it's Faye. It's Faye. It's like, wait a minute. Did you play the last 2 games? It's not a random character. It's not like they're making you play as Thor's daughter. Because I'll be real with you, I wouldn't care about that. That would be like, what, a random character that came into the frame? Or like, if they made you play as like Angraboda and you were like riding around on a yak and it was like a farming simulator. Oh, okay, yeah, I would understand the anger to be like, why in the world are we playing as Angraboda or Thor's daughter? It's Faye. It's like, you hear about her so much in 2018. It's like, what are we doing here? You're not fans. I've just come to determine it. You're not fans. If you're fans, you have weird priorities. Because it's like, this is literally the perfect character and the perfect actor. It's like if you went to like a factory and you tried to manufacture like a better way to do a female lead character, you couldn't do a better version. You were like, what? This is it. This is the archetype of a great lead that's a woman. Like, you couldn't ask for a better one. 100% agree with you. I'll be buying and playing this game because of Deborah Ann Wall. She seems like an awesome human being and is into D&D. Ciri is better. Ciri's another pretty good one, though. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Thrud is Thor's daughter. Sorry, I didn't remember her name. I would have been right there with people if they just picked some random character. What's good, Feed? I see you in the chat. If they just picked some random character like Thor's daughter or Angraboda, where you were like, they weren't really a main character. Why am I playing as them? But like, I don't know. Yeah, Brock and Sindri Blacksmith Simulator. There you go. You can't get past the Jello cube and the talking ribbon. Well, let's consider that for just a moment, okay? Because I hear people bringing that up. They bring up the cube and they bring up the sword. Okay. I actually think it's a great way to clearly make it its own thing. It's going to be weird. It's going to be very Thor, like the movie Thor Ragnarok. Like when he is in that place with Jeff Goldblum and it's really weird. Okay, and everybody's weird and it's just weird vibes, right? This game is going to have that vibe from beginning to end. It's going to be weird. You wouldn't want it to feel like God of War, Faye edition. Like it's just Faye running around in familiar environments and familiar fights, and it would be like, and she's got somebody with her that's got range attacks, right? Or like they did like a prequel and she had like the Leviathan axe and she kind of used it a little bit different or mostly the same as Kratos. Like, there was a part of me that wanted her to get an axe. Maybe she will get an axe at some point in the game. And like, they could say things about how, like, Kratos has no idea how to use this thing. Because, he's a brute. And she's like this, and he says she fights beautifully, and then you see her fighting style has lots of, like, acrobatics in it. Lots of flourishes. Which would make sense as to why he said that. It's like, she's not just some brute swinging an axe. She fights beautifully. It's almost like dancing. And I think that's dope. But that requires there to be significant distance between this game and the others. So I think the sword and the vibe and the cube and the fact that she's in the Everywen and there's all these different gods, I think is a perfect choice because it allows them to do what they do, but to not have it be like it's adjacent, right? The axe is canonically hers. No, I know that. I know. Like, it's literally hers, which is why it would be funny for her to talk about how, like, Kratos doesn't even use the axe correctly because he's just a brute. Like, he's the god of war. He's not, like, the god of fighting. So he's just really good at fighting because he's strong and angry. So again, I feel like it's going to be adjacent and like running alongside, but you're not going to play it and feel like, this is just God of War with the woman instead of Kratos. It's going to feel like its own game, if that makes sense. The cube seems extremely childish for the series. I just don't agree. Shoehorning the cube in like Yasuke. No, that's different because Yasuke didn't fit the play style of the game. I don't think that's an equivalency because, like, My issues with Yasuke had nothing to do that. I actually liked how his fighting was different than Naoe, because there were fights where Naoe's limitations were frustrating and you wanted to play as Yasuke. Like, I actually thought his fighting was dope. It was that he couldn't climb and sneak. In an Assassin's Creed game, climbing and sneaking is like breathing. Like, that's part and parcel to the experience. I don't think the cube is that big of like a switch up, because if you think about it, when you played through and you had Thor's daughter helping you, or Freya helping you, or Atreus helping you, they would commonly not just shoot range. They would go up and hit and do magic, and, you know, wolves and stuff would come out. I think like Atreus had like almost like spells that he could cast in Ragnarok. And to me, it's like the cube is doing very similar things. It's coming in and out of the frame. It's helping you. You're probably going to be able to tell it what to do, like you could with in Ragnarok. Like, you would have Atreus do specific things at specific times because of his different abilities, and you would have him unlocking things in various. I think the cube's going to be a very similar companion. I don't feel like it's ham-fisted at all. I think it's thematically distinct because of where she is. It's emblematic of where she is. It's weird. But keep with 13 months, keep doing what you're doing. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Only reason you don't like Fable is because it's an Xbox game? No, that's not true. I've actually been excited about Fable for a long time. I played Fable 3 on my Xbox back in the day. That's not true at all. In a game where monsters, fairies, and demons exist, it's a cube that's childish. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think it's emblematic. It's emblematic of where she is. It's like, oh, she's in a really, this place is wacky, man. There's going to be all sorts of different gods and enemies, and I definitely think that she's gonna. I think they're gonna bring it. I think Santa Monica brings it, 100%. Somebody says Laufey will destroy Fable. I don't really think Laufey and Fable are competing. I think it's going to be a tough month for everybody because it's already kind of getting stuffed. And I've not even said that I don't like Fable. I've said that it looks better, and I've said the RPG elements have lots of potential. I've just talked about how performance needs to improve and the combat needs to improve. I've had super pro Xbox guys agree with me on that. They watch the trailers and they agree that it looks like it's coming along, but it still looks kind of rough. I've never said that I don't like it. I've not once said that. I've actually said it could be quite good. They have to nail performance and combat though, because that's going to be a significant portion of the game. It's got to be exhausting to find the bad and everything. Well, you don't have to be the opposite and like find the good in everything, but I definitely think I gave the example with AC Shadows. There were people that were like committed to hating it and like they were just angry that Yasuke was in it. I still see people saying this stuff, you know, the black man in Japan. It's like, oh golly. But I didn't like Yasuke's presence in the game because of what it did to the gameplay. It wasn't good for the gameplay. It did not feel like an organic sort of flow state. It was like, well, I don't want to play as him because I can't do any of the stuff I want to do. You know what I mean? Creature says, a talking head on my belt, legit. A cube, you've gone too far. It's true. It's kind of true. You know, in 2018, you chop a guy's head off of a tree that he basically became a part of, and you carry the head around. You brought it back to life, basically, so he could live apart from his body. And you walk around, and he's basically he's basically a talking Wikipedia of lore. It's great. And you're like, yeah, that's... The cube is too much, though. And a talking sword, yeah, I'm out. You take your fantasy realm stuff and you put it somewhere else other than this fantasy game. This game that's completely made up. AC Shadows is also best-selling till Black Flag. Yeah, it sold really well. I mean, not surprising. People wanted a game where they got to play as a ninja, and they just should have focused on that instead of bringing Yasuke in. They should have focused on finally delivering a ninja Assassin's Creed, and not worried about they should not have worried about having the two different protagonists. I don't think it helped the game. I don't think it helped it. I think it actively hurt it. When I couldn't climb as him, I didn't want to play as him. I still like the game. It hurt. Dolman has entered the chat. Yeah, there's a talking doll in in Death Stranding 2. A literal, like, ventriloquist doll. People just hate geometry. They failed. They failed trigonometry in high school, and they as soon as they see the 3-dimensional cube, it triggers them. Yo, thanks for the 3 stream streak, Wolf. I appreciate it. Oh man, Mario told Laufey the price of the cube just went up. You hate that doll? I liked him. It was interesting having him talk to the main character about grief when I was like hearing the voice. If you watch The Chosen, it's the actor who plays Jesus, and I was like, this is getting it was a little interesting as an experience, like going from watching The Chosen to having this little doll on my hip, talking about grief, and I was like, all right, what's going on here? My worlds are colliding. Just want to say you were right, Kratos isn't gone. Well, to me, I didn't even need Santa Monica to say this. It was clear as day. When they initiated this story, they initiate this story with her death at the beginning of 2018. And I was like, oh, it's running alongside of the events. And then we started thinking like, wait a minute. And we started hearing Faye touches those games. I think she blew the horn in 2018. There's the time where Kratos is gone. He thinks he's only been gone for moments. And Atreus is like, you've been gone for hours. And Atreus is like, killed all these elves. We don't really even know what happened at that point. We don't know how Atreus did it. Like, he's decent at fighting at that point, but not that decent. That homie killed like a pile, like a football team worth of elves. I don't know. I don't know, man. Something else might have happened there too. We're like, how did he do that? There's also moments in Ragnarok where she shows up in his dreams. She touches him and puts like a gold hand on his head, which that was her like mark of protection whenever she had like, and then there was an opening, and then that's how Baldur gets through. She does that in one of the dream sequences. Also, he hears her. Kratos hears her at one point in Ragnarok. And so it's, again, we don't, like, as soon as I started realizing how much her character sort of interacted with Kratos in 2018 in Ragnarok, I was like, oh, this is totally a tee-up to the next game. Hold on, Lainey, hold on, Lono, you saying you can take on Atreus? You add a little bass in your voice? I don't know what you're talking about. Would you rather have lore and world building, or do folk really want another Kratos game? Well, this is setting up another Kratos game. That, like, I didn't need him to say that. Like, it was cool that Cory Barlog confirmed it. Like, yes, the next mainline game after this mainline game is going to be a Kratos game. And this game with Faye is setting it up. I'm like, oh, dope. The crowd who thought Kratos was gone truly do not have listening or comprehension skills. From the minute it was announced, they said this was a side story. This is why I can't take people seriously. Well, I don't know if they said side story. They made it clear from the beginning she wasn't replacing him. Can't Atreus turn into animals? He turns into animals in Ragnarok, but in 2018, he's just starting to get pretty good at fighting. He has a bow and a knife. So it's possible that his, like, what do they call it, animagus, or being an animagi? I don't even know what they call it in Norse mythology. Basically, he's an animagus. So it's like, is he able to do that in 2018 and he doesn't even realize that he did it? Does he not even realize that he did it? Like, he's like, you were gone for hours. He like scolds Kratos, you know, and Kratos is like, I was gone for mere moments. What are you talking about? And then Kratos looks around and it's like, oh my gosh, you've committed mass murder. Now, in self-defense, obviously, he wasn't just doing it for the fun of it. He used his Loki on him. Yeah, I don't know. He's just a boy. Yeah, it'll be cool if we actually get to see what happened there. It would be really, really dope if they confirm a bunch of things in this. Animagus, is that what they would officially label it? He's a shapeshifter? He's not just a shapeshifter, though. He turns into animals specifically. A wolf and a bear is all we've seen. It'd be cool if we could see the other side of that. When Kratos is gone, we could see, like, how did Atreus survive that? Animorph? Yeah, I guess you could call it an animorph if you're being, like, scholastic or whatever about it. There's still a Loki game coming out. Let me provide you with a little bit of a theory that I have. Okay. I think how they named it, God of War Laufey, I think there's going to be a God of War Loki game. I do. The exact message was, Kratos is the base of our tree, and we want to explore the branches. Right, so, Street Shadow, I think we started saying it's a branching story, which works with that. Side story makes it sound like it's going to be like a $40 game. That's why some people, I was not saying side story, because this is a mainline game. It's a branching story, but it's a mainline game. When you say side story, you run the risk of people thinking it's going to be like a $40 or $50, like, no, this is a mainline full game. Anytime I see God of War Laundry, I know I'm dealing with an idiot. I mean, why even? I just don't concern myself. It's just so easy to mute. There's so many other people in the world. Once you start to realize that people that are not attuned to, like, they're not attuned to reality, they're attuned to just being, like, unkind and hateful, and you just shove them out of the frame. There's so many other people in the world. It's like, I don't know. Don't let them into the frame. Their energy is toxic. Like, there's just no reason to. You know? And they can scream and shout echo chamber from the outside of whatever it is that you curate for yourself. You've only got so many lives. I'm sorry, you've only got so many years to live. Sorry, I misspoke. I'm not supposed to let people know that. You don't have extra lives. But you only have so many years to live. You know what I'm saying? Why not make them great and not let people like that into the frame? Like, who cares what they say? In mythology, Atreus can turn into many things. While mostly he turns into animals, he also turns into an old woman to fool people. I guess that's true. He's Loki. It is, maybe I guess they would say it manifests the way that it does in Ragnarok because of his bond with the dogs or the wolves. It's possible that his bond is why it manifests as animals first. But it is true. Loki can basically transform into probably whatever he wants. He could probably transform into a cute... I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. He could probably transform into a cube. Wait a minute. The cube's kind of green. I'm just messing around. Faye was quite literally spreading yellow paint in the forest for Kratos and Atreus in one of the flashbacks. Meta commentary. That was what's that called? She was shielding that place that they were in. And Kratos chops the trees down. Like, this is one of her favorite trees. She marked the tree to hide them. Did you ever think about that? Kratos is like, she loved these trees. She marked them. It's like, no, she marked them so that you guys were hidden. And then you chop the tree down. And that's how Baldur gets in. Have you ever thought about that? Like, just such a manly, brutish thing to do. These were her favorite trees. Let's burn her with them. She asked for that tree to be chopped down? When do they communicate that? I thought she had sent up like a protective barrier around where they were with the trees and her handprints. I didn't know that she specifically stated that she wanted the tree to be chopped down. When is that stated explicitly? She set it in motion. She set Kratos up. Oh, so she means for the tree to be cut down. That was in Ragnarok. Oh. I was like, I don't remember that being stated in 2018. She wanted him to cut down the marked trees. She marked the trees to burn them. I thought she marked the tree to protect them. It put like a shield around the place. She marked them to be cut. But that's not... We don't find that out until Ragnarok. They don't state that in 2018. He's just like cutting down the trees with her hands on them. I think she purposely marked the trees that broke the seal for her funeral to force them to leave. Oh, that would make sense. She wanted them to leave, and she knew that Kratos wouldn't do it. She knew he would stay there and hide. And she knew, no, you got it. You can't do that. You can't stay here. She didn't probably want that for Atreus. I think you find that in Ragnarok. Maybe that's in the dream sequence where you figure that out. I don't remember her stating... I don't remember that being stated in 2018. I don't think Kratos knew about the seal. No, I don't think he knew about the seal either. Because if he did, he wouldn't have cut the trees down. He would have wanted to stay protected and hidden. He didn't want to go out. He didn't think Atreus was ready. Okay. I forgot that she makes it that it becomes clear in Ragnarok she wanted the trees to be cut down. She knew a tattooed heroin addict would force them to leave. Cory confirmed that was her intention. See, sometimes we get information from Cory that we don't necessarily get from the game. I'm trying to remember a specific time where that's stated. It was stated in 2018. Kratos said to Atreus, that is why Faye wanted him to cut the marked trees. He figured it out. Kratos mentions it at the beginning of 2018. The trees she marked were for her pyre. Really? I had it backwards. I thought she marked the trees to put that protective barrier around them. Maybe she marked the trees to remove so that they would then the barrier would be removed, like you guys are saying. She did it deliberately. That makes it even more interesting. That she was like, I'm literally, when I'm gone, I'm going to remove protection so that you guys have to go on this journey together. I wonder if within the mythology they're going to say she has foresight. Like, does she have the ability, or was this like motherly intuition, or was it genuine foresight that she knew what needed to happen? They needed to usher in Ragnarok, like Atreus was going to need to grow in strength and they were going to need to bond. Like, did she see that, or did she like sense it as like a mom? It stated in 2018 she needed him to go to the land of the giants. No, I know that. I know she wanted them to go. I thought he cut the trees down because she had marked them. I didn't know that she had actively communicated that, oh no, I want these cut down. She does have foresight. I don't know how people are going to skip this game, dude. Super interesting to think that like everything that happens in 2018 in Ragnarok, she sets in motion. Not only sets in motion, but realizes that it needs to happen. I thought it was well established that she had foresight. Where? Laufey is capable of prophetic insight. Did they establish that in the game? Or are you guys pulling that from somewhere else? It was all foreseen on the wall. It was all foreseen on the wall, but did they say that she was the one that painted those murals? I thought the giants painted those murals. She was buried with the tree. Why is she so desperate to get back? I don't know if she's desperate to get back. She's probably desperate to get out of the everywhen. She doesn't want to be there. She probably is like, I'm not supposed to be here. I think you need to replay the games. This is crazy. I don't remember any of this. You have to remember, homie, I played God of War 2018 literally 8 years ago. I don't remember any of this stuff. We watched a super cut of 2018, but it was just the cutscenes. So there's probably a lot of stuff that they said with Mimir that points to all this. She is a giant. Yes, she is a giant. I know that because I remember Baldur says, I thought she'd be bigger, because he thinks he's looking for a giant. And then Kratos makes the same mistake, thinking that frost giants are literally giant and big, and Atreus has to correct him. I remember all that. Like, I know she's a giant. I know they're not literally giant. But I didn't know that they established that she literally had the gift of foresight, that she saw all this transpiring, and she did this knowing that Baldur was going to show up. Mikey with 21 months and a member plus, thank you so much. In Ragnarok, Atreus breaks one of the trees when he's a bear, and then they mark a new tree to repair the protection spell again. So they figured it out after the fact. And so in Ragnarok, they're well aware of, like, oh, we need to fix the protection spell. Huh. I thought the mask splinter was why she ended up in the Everywen. Her cutting down the tree is a big part of the story. It's established in 2018. She led them to every point in their journey from her handprints and yellow paint. It was heavily implied that she saw their entire journey before that it happened. I need to replay 2018 before Laufey comes out, because I haven't played it in 8 years. I literally forgot all of this stuff, because I remember the main points of, like, Baldur shows up, you gotta run, you end up at the tree, you end up with Freya, and then she's like, you need to tell him about you need to tell him about himself. Loki, he's losing it. Atreus is losing it. He's like, I'm not getting sick anymore. But then he starts to get twisted and mad, and then he's like, he wants to kill. And Kratos is like, what the heck is going on with this kid? And then you learn in the end that he's like freaking Loki. Like, I remember the high points, but I didn't remember any of the stuff about how, like, Faye wanted the trees to be chopped down, and she knew every step of their journey. I wonder how much is she actually then going to touch on those games to ensure things happen. She has foresight. Freya specifically says that 3 of Odin's kin are dead because of the path Faye set them on. Faye also saw Kratos dying and Loki joining Odin, but she burned that triptych because she wanted them to break their fate. I feel like it's going to be a book, and then you could just read it. Didn't they predict Ragnarok? Yeah, they find the one thing that makes it clear they're going to usher in Ragnarok. They find that in the game, and then they do it. I played both games a few months ago, and I do not remember any of that. Dan, that's what I'm saying. It's so rich with lore that, like, you could literally replay it and probably learn new things, especially when you just let Mimir talk. When you just let him yammer on and on and on, he will say, he's a walking well, he doesn't walk. He's a Wikipedia on your hip. I remember I got to the point in 2018, I wouldn't dock the boat. Because if you dock the boat, it would interrupt him. I wouldn't dock the boat. I would just let him keep talking. I'm like, the heck, man, this guy's dropping like encyclopedic knowledge on me about all these people and all these creatures and all this lore. That's what I'm saying. How can you have a company like this that makes a game like this that I played 8 years ago, and people are like, oh no, yeah, there's significant parts of the story you either completely missed, Lono, or you forgot. And I was like, yeah, I don't remember any of that. Just finished my first playthrough of Tsushima. It's so good. I had a similar experience with Tsushima when I did my video on it, rewatching all the cutscenes. He's a Hippopedia. That's right. We play, read, and watch so much, it's impossible to remember every little detail. Mythologically, Mimir is that wise. Baldur also shouts, I'm not my brother. If you had given me what I wanted, it wouldn't have ended this way. He meant he's not like Thor, the giant slayer, and wouldn't have needed to kill them. Man. Thoughts on the Morning All, says Michael Dorsey. Thoughts on the PlayStation Blackout? I'm not partaking in that. I'm just so over that discussion. it's just a field of straw men. Nobody's interacting with each other and actually hearing each other's sides. I don't even want to talk about it anymore. The whole thing's exhausting. You got to go watch the cutscenes again. I don't remember so much. I think that's one of the problems when you're just hopping from game to game to game to game. Like, the game becomes transient. You know what I mean? I thought you'd be bigger. Yeah, I love when he says that to Kratos. Because he, like, looks up at him. I thought you'd be bigger. He's great. I couldn't believe that was Daniel Faraday. He's also the interpreter in Saving Private Ryan. He's got quite a history of acting. I think people trying to predict the games and the elements from mythology are kind of missing the point of these games, breaking from what's mandated and expected of them. Do it, Lono, after a replay and play the new Laufey, write Kratos' audio bio, and sell us the signed copies. Sure. I dream the past every night. It's something more. I feel like Faye is trying to tell me something. Yeah, I'm telling you, she shows up a lot in Ragnarok. There's multiple times she shows up. And she puts one of those handprints on his head in the one. And I'm like, why did she do that? What was she doing? Again, while she's in the Everywhen, while she's in this game, I bet you she's going to be pushing for that. I guess there's no PlayStation negativity talk here. No, I've been negative about them plenty. I've done entire shows, about them and have been critical about them. I'm tired of having that conversation. It's so many people aren't having the conversation in good faith, as your comment is not in good faith. Like, you know what I mean? It's just everybody's just interacting with straw men. If you watch closely on Laufey's neck, you can see two dots that make a parallel line, as if she had been shot by an arrow through her throat. Just something I noticed. Really? The only logical explanation I have for Faye is that she met with the Fates, who gave her the information she needed, that her family was in grave danger, and she hatched her plans. She met with the Fates, or people are saying she had the gift of foresight, and that's why you find all those murals at the end of 2018, and it predicts a bunch of stuff, and it shows, and that's when you learn that Atreus is Loki, and you're like, what the heck? I was only online that day and didn't even know there was an outage until I saw it on Twitter. Yeah, I think his Xbox was having one this morning as well. I don't know what's going on. I don't know why we're having these outages. There's one YouTube video where a Norse expert goes over everything, and the biggest issue was the runes look great, but they're all gibberish and they mean nothing, so holding the cannon won't help. They just pick runes that look cool. These runes say horse demon fireplace. It doesn't mean anything. You need Cory on the show. This is what's crazy to me. I remember getting to the end of 2018 and being like, oh my gosh, that's a heck of a bombshell to drop. And, then the next game is Ragnarok. And Ragnarok was fantastic, but I don't think any of us really thought through how much they were planting. This is why I'm like, how do you not trust them? The level of care they've taken since building 2018, which launched 8 years ago, which means it was in production over 10 years ago. Over 10 years ago. They hatched this plan to make these games and these stories have all these interweaving themes and through lines of narrative, and people are like, oh, I don't want to play as a girl. I'm like, what are you doing? The care and the time and the passion that it took to do this, I don't know how you can be like not trusting of Santa Monica with the God of War franchise. I don't get it at all. Like, I'm like, yeah, these guys are crazy. What if 2018 had sucked? Oh, like, what if it had been a bad game? Infinity Stone Saga? Yeah, a little bit like that. Strong day today. Not a lot of people in here for GTA 6. That's always kind of a good sign, because the GTA 6 stuff is fun to talk about, but not for very long. This has been way more fun. Masterclass in storytelling. This game will probably answer lingering questions about the story. February is going to be stacked. Yeah, FF7 Part 3. Oh, that date hasn't been released? I mean, that might not be February, though. The dreams he has will certainly be depicted in some way. Oh, for sure. I think there's going to be multiple moments where we're like, no way, that was her. Like, I think the most obvious one is that she's the one that blows the horn in 2018. They never find out who it was. All the way through 2018 to Ragnarok, we never find out who blows the horn. I think we find out it was her, but I think that's like a drop in the bucket of how much she's probably touching those games and helping things move along. There's all sorts of things that happen that, like, they could easily be like, oh no, yeah, that was Faye. There's times where you hear her. There's times where Kratos dreams. There's the time that he's gone and he thinks he was gone for mere moments, and Atreus is like, you were gone for like hours, right? I think we're gonna be shocked at the level of care and intention they took with this story. I just continue to trust creatives that take that level of care and they plan that far in advance. I'm like, I don't know, man. I have a lot of respect for that. That's not an easy thing to do, and that's certainly something where you have to be super, super patient. Think of how long that this has had to be locked down and kept a secret. Didn't somebody blow the horn in the Laufey gameplay trailer, though? No. In God of War 2018, there's that horn in that area that you are with the World Serpent. And someone blows it, and then you go there and no one's there. You don't know who did it. Biggest Laufey question is, how are the parry mechanics? That's right. She's got some cool moves if you really break down the combat. I agree, Faye. You don't have to type in all caps. I agree, Faye likely blew the horn to begin with, unless it's just a bootstrap paradox with Kratos. Something I do like is that Kratos has his moments where Faye picks him up. We see the same thing for Faye. Yeah, there's moments where he helps her. And we're like, is she imagining that? Or is there in fact some kind of weird crossover between the two? Consoles couldn't run anything more than 30 FPS for the new GTA. It's got to be that way. Always been that way for Rockstar games. I don't think games from 8 and 13 years ago are indicative of anything, but I don't find that argument to be compelling at all. It's always been this way. They've always released games at 30. Yeah, 8 and 13 years ago. You could say the same thing for all of the studios that release 60 FPS games this gen. You could say, well, up till now, they always release games at 30, and then they didn't. Like Santa Monica, Guerrilla, Insomniac, all their games prior to the PS5 gen were 30. That didn't have any determination of anything this gen. You mean Red Dead 2 and GTA 5? Thank you. I wasn't aware of the games they've made before. I know what games you're referring to, brother. You could say that for any developer before the PlayStation 5 generation. You could say that for all the devs. That's why it's not a compelling argument. What consoles are equipped to handle that? We don't know what they need to be equipped to handle. We don't know anything about the game. We know that they went into GTA 5 and gave it 60 FPS. We know they went into Red Dead 1 and did it. And we've also heard from two reliable sources that they've done the same thing for Red Dead 2. Seemingly, they've gone into their old games to try to figure it out. I think that's an indication that they're trying to figure it out. That doesn't mean they're going to figure it out. But I don't find it a compelling argument to be like, they've always done this. Yeah, you could have said the same thing about Guerrilla, Santa Monica, Insomniac. You could go to all those game studios that have been doing 60 FPS this gen, and you could say, well, they were always releasing games at 30. Why do you expect their games to be at 60? Like, it's not a compelling argument. Insomniac was releasing 60 FPS games on the PS2 and PS3. I'm talking about if you go back and look at the PS4 gen, if there are games way back from PS2, PS3 era, whatever, that were 60, that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is like the pattern of so many studios before this gen was that all games were coming out at 30. You have exceptions, but the majority of games launching back then were 30. That's why it's not a compelling argument. It's like, yeah, basically all games were 30 back then. What? That would have been like saying, Marathon's going to be 30 FPS. Why? Well, because all of Bungie games were 30 prior to now. They upgraded Destiny for this gen. Like, I just don't find it to be compelling. None of them are Rockstar. The tech is 10 years ahead of the industry every time. So the tech is really far ahead and yet also not really far ahead. Again, I don't find the argumentation to be compelling. You are totally free to believe it's going to be 30. I'm not saying that it's not going to be 30. I'm saying the argumentation methods they're just not compelling. It's like, yeah, the tech's going to be super advanced. So it's going to be super advanced and yet not? Like, I don't get it. They've made no advancements in how their game engine handles anything. $10 from Marcus. Thoughts on the planned PlayStation blackout? I think the timing is terrible given Madden 27 and NBA 2K7 are coming out around that time. Yeah, people can voice their opinions any way they want. And they can they can use the means that are available to them to do those things, to like let their voices be heard. I don't think it's going to have an impact. I think the entire fight is I'm tired of having the conversation. I think that it's a bunch of people interacting with straw men. Nobody's interacting with each other. The people that are in support of the blackout and really mad about discs are basically claiming the people that aren't on their side are celebrating loss of ownership. That's not true at all. Everybody's just wailing on straw men. It's exhausting. There's nothing intellectual, logical, or reasonable about it. It's all emotional argumentation. Almost nobody's having genuine interactions about the topic. That's why I don't care about it anymore. I don't. I'm like, if this is how the conversation's gonna go, have fun, y'all. I'm out. Have fun. I'm done talking to emotion and bad faith straw men. It just isn't fun. There's nothing stimulating about it at all. It's infuriating because it's a waste of time. No one's going to be compelled to think differently. No one's willing to hear the other side. Have fun. In 5 years, we'll all look back and be like, yeah, that was something. Someone said GTA coming out at 30 on console. I said, yeah, it's been that way for all the Rockstar games. Yeah, you're not factually incorrect, Corey. The reason I don't find the argumentation compelling is there are tons of studios that prior to this gen, they were always releasing games at 30, and then they figured out ways to do better. I think there's better evidence that Rockstar is trying to figure it out than that they've just not even tried. Like, let me ask you a question. Do you believe they're not even trying? Do you believe they're not even trying to get 60? It's not even in their purview. Is that your belief? Because we can believe different things. We don't have any facts right now. We don't have any statements from them. So this is all just belief based on either patterns or, there is some evidence in the market of certain things. I actually think the evidence in the market is more in favor of that they are trying. I totally agree. I'm with you. Well, I don't understand what you're agreeing with. Do you agree they're trying to do it? Or do you think they're not even trying? Like, what you're going to have to spell out your position with more than a yes or no, because I'm not going to know what you're responding to. So spell out your position. Are they actively trying, or are they not even giving it an effort? They're like, no, we always do 30. Like, which do you think that it is? Okay, so you think they're trying. Okay. I think your position's more reasonable then. A lot of people talk about this, and the reason I'm never at all compelled is because they talk about it like Rockstar is not even trying. And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any sense. These guys are huge. They are good. They know what they're doing. They went into all their old games and did it for some reason. They did it for some reason. They went back to GTA 5 and Red Dead 1, and we've heard they did it with Red Dead 2. I don't know. Trying is one thing. It not being feasible. Well, again, I feel like you're saying things that I just don't align with. You're saying they're trying and it's not feasible. What? Like, I think it's feasible. I think they're either going to have to make compromises with respect to lighting and the simulation. I think those are your two biggest culprits for frame rate in GTA 6, the simulation and the lighting. Because if they've baked ray tracing into everything, that's such a detriment to frames per second. In games right now that don't have like insane citywide simulations running, even games now when you throw on the ray tracing, it makes the frames drop. So, obviously the Pro would have an advantage there for the ray tracing, but the Pro's not going to have a huge advantage. Now, the CPU being 10% faster, it gives it some lift, but not necessarily enough to get around if the simulation is just too complex or whatever. So, that's why I think they went back into their previous games. I think they went back into their previous games to experiment with what can be done to the simulation, the NPCs, the way the game runs. Can we go into that bottleneck, and can we buy ourselves space? Can we buy ourselves bandwidth and space within the CPU bottleneck? And I believe they used GTA 5, Red Dead 1, and Red Dead 2 to test it out. That's my personal belief. Now, you could think that I'm way out in left field, and that's fine. But I find it incredibly weird that a company as big as them and with a game as big as this, why are they spending time going back to those old games? They did this in the last 12 to 18 months, or maybe 24. In the last 1 to 2 years, that's when this has happened. I don't know, dude. That timing's really hard to ignore. Y'all are working on the biggest game in history. Why are you piddling around with updates to GTA 5 and Red Dead 1 and 2? What are y'all doing? I'll tell you what they're doing. My theory, they're experimenting. Because listen. This is one of the key points in the argument of the people that say GTA 6 is going to be 30. This is a key point in your argument. It actually is a strength in your argument. You would say these games are very CPU heavy. They like to do all this stuff with the simulation and the NPCs, and it ends up being very CPU intensive. The GPU's not going to save you. Totally a fair point. But don't you think it's interesting that they went back into these games that are notoriously known for CPU bottlenecks, and they lifted frames per second? Kind of seems like they use those games as a testing ground. Because the game's immaterial at a certain point. If you go into GTA 5 and you're like, here's the bottleneck. What can we do within the game to alleviate this bottleneck? Oh, that could be very instructive. That could be very helpful for the new larger scale game. That's been my position since the beginning, is like, we're acting as this is a done deal, and that Rockstar can't innovate and Rockstar can't improve. Oh, yeah, they've always done 30. And I'm like, that's not a compelling argument at all. You should do a deep dive into Rockstar's patents. I think you'll find the NPC patent especially fascinating. I've not had time to do that. I've had people telling me to do that, and I think it might add some merit or credence to the way I approach this discussion. Did I miss something? They didn't bring up the FPS in Red Dead 2. We have two very reliable sources saying they just haven't released it yet. Nate the Hate said it, and then Kiwi Talks confirmed it when I did my interview with him. They have both heard that in fact does exist. They're in completely different circles, and they both heard that it exists. I'm taking that one to the bank and cashing it. I'm like, oh yeah, Red Dead 2's been updated. Devil's Advocate says, Parasito, how much of that is removing fidelity from the game through methods like putting processing on servers for NPCs? No idea. No idea, because I don't think GTA 6 out of the box is going to require the internet. Unless you're accidentally slipping into thinking about GTA 6 Online, which won't be there at release. So I don't know. I don't think they're going to require internet for this game. That would be a huge headline. In the current climate and the current culture, that'd be massive news if that game was going to require internet. So is it a Rockstar issue and not a console hardware issue? It's both, is it not? It's both. If you build a road that's only so big, and then somebody's trying to come through with, those ultra wide loads that you see on the highway, they're trying to come through that road. Well, they're trying to come through with something that's incredibly big, and the road wasn't really built for this. It's both and. It's not one or the other. You know what I'm saying? If the console had the hardware. Yeah, but here's the problem with that. Like, the attempt to indict the hardware, people already tried this gen. People already tried this. When Gotham Knights came out, it was infuriating. Having to listen to people talk about the consoles just aren't strong enough, man. We're going back to 30 FPS games. Okay. How well did that work out, that prediction? How well did that work out? When did Gotham Knights release? Gotham Knights released 4 years ago. How'd that prediction work out? That the consoles just weren't good enough. You know, yeah, we're going back to 30 FPS games. That was 4 years ago. That was one of the worst predictions I've ever seen people make. I've never been more happy to see an ocean of people be wrong because they were either like anti-console or like anti-PlayStation, whatever they were anti. And it was like it was stupid. It was like, why are people making this prediction? One game was all it took. We're going back to 30 FPS games. These consoles just aren't strong enough. I was like, huh? Meanwhile, in the last 4 years, I've played countless games that aren't just gorgeous. They run at 60. Thank you for the $5, Neo Reaper. They couldn't hire the Crimson Desert devs, seeing as they won the Technical Achievement Award of the Developer Awards. Not deserved. I don't know how you give those guys technical achievement for a game that launched that was so bad, its score was terrible everywhere, and they spent weeks and months patching it. Why is that technical achievement? Technical achievement for what? What did they technically achieve with that game? Other than scope creep and poor optimization? I don't know. Who's looking at that game and being like, yeah. At our time, when games like Death Stranding 2 are coming out, we think this game is a technical achievement. What? What is it? Like, go play Death Stranding 2 and, like, look at what Kojima's team achieved with Decima, and then go frickin' play Crimson Desert and tell me that's a technical achievement. Like, what are we even talking about here? Technical achievement for what? There's nothing about that game that's technically impressive. Scope creep, bloat, poor optimization. Let's give them a standing ovation and an award for that. People defend it all day on social media. I don't know what's worse than that game. It's launch state or the defense force that acts like it's never had a single problem. I don't know which one's worse. No game stands against even GTA. God of War have base fans that nobody have. I don't quite understand what you're trying to say. Decima should be the shared Sony engine. I mean, I don't necessarily think you want to homogenize engine use. If the team at, Insomniac were suddenly forced to use Decima. I mean, I get what you're saying, but a lot of the teams already have really, really good systems. Like Santa Monica and Insomniac and Naughty Dog all do great work. You don't need to ham-fist Decima everywhere. It was technically playable, so it gets the technical award. Yeah. I will be on my deathbed telling people that hand-delivering a PS5 Pro to avoid giving out digital downloads. You know what makes me the most mad about that game? Is that the public is so willing to go along with something because of like prior commitments and the culture war and everything else. Like they let that studio get away with some of the most deceptive marketing practices I've ever seen. I bought like the craziest tape ever. And the stinking foam, the foam just won't, I don't know what it is. It won't hold. I definitely don't want the same engine for every game. Ghost of Yotei and Decima would be interesting, though. Yeah, but why, though? like Trill, look at Yote in what Tsushima's accustomed to building in, and then imagine Yote and Decima. Do you think you would get much of a different end result? I feel like they'd almost be indistinguishable from each other. Like their visual quality and the way they handle like lighting and environments and draw distance and all that. We also don't know how Decima would work in the combat system of a Tsushima or a Yote. The combat system in Yote is like, I mean, ping. It's like, what? This is so good. Like, is Decima really built for that kind of combat? We just don't know. We've never really seen it. Like, the combat in Death Stranding is very straightforward. Like, you got some guns, shooting feels pretty good, movement feels pretty good, but, like, moment to moment, deflections, parries, iframes, all of that, I just don't know. I don't know if we've ever seen Decima used in that way. Try using wall tape made for tiles, sold at home improvement stores. Hang on, I'm going to write that down. Wall tape for tiles. It's been driving me dadgum crazy. It's like the most extreme tape I could buy. And funny enough, it literally had a piece of foam stuck to the dad. It was stuck to it here. This is Gorilla Tape. There's a gorilla. You can see him. He's in there. I mean, there he is. Look at him. He looks like he should be able to do it. I tell you what's crazy. These disc plate magnet things, they stick really, really good to the foam because I did it to this one here. I wonder if I could cut these into 4s and use these instead and have them magnet sticking to the boxes. I don't know if I have enough of these though. So I'll look into the wall tape that you said. Horizon uses Decima. I bet you that tape would work if they hadn't have killed Harambe. Now that you're mentioning Harambe, I bet you that's why. It's just his ghost from the past. Yeah, Horizon uses Decima. It's basically like Guerrilla's engine, brother. It's Guerrilla's proprietary engine. They worked with Kojima on the engine when he was building Death Stranding 1. There was a lot of collaborative work. That's why Death Stranding 2 is just so good. It's because there's just such a working knowledge there of the engine at Kojima Productions. I'm saying even if Faye released the same day as GTA 6, God of War would not flop. I don't know if it would flop, but it would hurt it. It would hurt it, bro. Have we already talked about the blackout for PlayStation? Yeah, I don't really have much of an interest in talking about it. Listen, there are people that I like, and there are people that I respect that are like going hard for physical, and they commonly strawman. They talk about people that are not on their side, and it's just a straw man. It's like, what do we do? I don't have any interest in the discussion anymore. I think it's tiring. The facts are dismissed. It's all emotional. I don't have the energy for some of that stuff anymore. I'm just growing a disdain, and I don't have a palate for it. We spend so much time and energy debating some of the dumbest things that I've ever had to debate in my life, and I'm just starting to get to the point where I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not going to debate that anymore. Said my piece, made my case, and I don't feel like talking about it anymore. I think we just waste too much time on it, and there's too many people in the spaces and the arguments that just stoke the fires because it's easy and they like to rage bait, and that's why we fundamentally end up wasting so much time, because those kinds of people can show up to a stream and just restoke the chat, restoke the debate fires, and then an hour goes by, and I'm like, what the frick did we even do? Like, I just don't have any interest in it. Just don't. It wouldn't flop, but you should give games room to breathe. Yeah, it certainly wouldn't flop, but it would definitely hurt its performance. Yeah. Yeah. You platinum Ghost of Tsushima, still need to get it for Yote. I just struggle with platinums. Like, I'm playing through Black Flag, and I'm doing all the little things, but then every once in a while I get to an island, and I'm like, there'll be like a chest or an animal or something in a really obscure spot, and if I can't get there fairly easily, I'm just like, because there's so many of them. There's so many islands, there's so many little icons. The minute I can't do it in like a fun, organic way, like a couple of times I've been on islands in that game, and I'm just like, I think I can get there this way. And I like climb around, and I find the passage, and there it is. There's the chest, or there's the animal or whatever that I need to hunt. And I love that. There's a great feeling of like natural discovery. The level design in Black Flag is actually quite good. But the minute the path is like obscured, blocked, or like I got to go like all the way around, like I had to like sail all the way around the island to get one chest. And I was like, yeah, I'm not doing this on every island. I'm not. I'm enjoying the game. And as soon as I see something that's not going to kind of weave into like what feels like more organic play, I leave that island and go work on the next mission. Like when a mission brings me to an island, I try to do all the things. If anything's like obscure or inconvenient or frustrating or whatever, I'm like, yeah, I'm good. And I just leave. Because it's just like, it starts to work against your enjoyment because like you feel like you're straining for the smallest thing. Like, do I really want to spend the next however many minutes going for one obscure location, chest, or what have you? I don't know. I'm really enjoying Black Flag, and I think that's one of the reasons why. I'm protecting the play sessions by not allowing the map to dictate what I do. Because I think that's what starts to happen. You're like, well, I got all the things except for that one thing over there. I better go do it. No, I'm not letting the map create like unspoken imperatives on the play session. Like, you've got to come get this. I'm like, no, I don't. And I just go do the next thing. If it was for the crappy multiplayer achievements, I would have, if it wasn't for them, you would have platinum Black Flag. On the subject of platinuming, I think playing games in that way can be really enjoyable for some folks, but just no. Somebody's asking if I got the platinum for Saros. No, I did not. Yeah, that's a good way to go about it. I have played games like this, and I fall into the trap of like the map is suddenly dictating what I'm doing. And it does. It hurts. I think it hurts the play session. It hurts the experience. You end the play session, you're like, I don't even know what I did. I was just like chasing icons. When I make it more organic, like, oh, I came here, I killed this guy. Okay, cool. It's time to leave. Let me do a quick check of the area. I see some things I could do. I go do those things, and then I leave. It feels like if I feel like a pirate exploring, not a gamer checking a box. Does that make sense? Like, I'm trying to play the game in a way that's more conducive to what's happening in the story and the characters, as opposed to being like, hang on a minute, boys, I know we need to sail for the next thing, but I got to go onto the back corner of this island and grab a little song that's going to fly away from me, and I have to chase it, and then I got to go get this chest over here. I'm not doing that, and I think it's really helping. I'm like 14 or 15 hours in Black Flag, and I'm really, really enjoying my time with it. Collide, thank you so much for using your Prime sub. As a reminder, boys, I will be gone the rest of the week. I was going to try and stream tomorrow, but we started looking at the schedule, and like I was going to stream, and the wife and kiddos were going to go do something, and then we were all going to come back together in the middle of the day and try and like leave, and the time just kept moving back, and I was like, we're going to get to our destination at like 11 o'clock at night, and I was like, what if y'all just didn't go do that? And what if I just didn't work, and we just left in the middle of the day, and we weren't stressed, and then we get there for dinner? Like, And I was like, yeah, that sounds so much better. So I was originally going to work today and tomorrow. Sorry. What's your favorite song? I don't know which ones that are my favorite. There's a couple that I don't like. I don't really know what they're called, though. I usually don't pay attention to that. I zoom the camera all the way out and just go max speed. And just let, like, the setting and the vibes and the water and the song just kind of set the mood. Like, I don't like pause it or hit the button to see what song they're singing. A lot of stuff that games make you do to get the platinum trophies are ridiculous. Sometimes they are and sometimes they're not. Yeah. Where are you headed? Oh, we're going up for my dad's 70th. Not all games are like that. Watch the GTA 6 trailer drop while you're gone. I mean, maybe. This doesn't seem like a great week for it. There's been so many people that have been saying, that August, the crew's the best part of Black Flag. Yeah, I didn't say that I didn't care about it. I just don't pause it or I don't mess with it. Like, I just take off and go and sail to the next destination, and I just go max speed so the camera zooms out, and I don't switch the music. I don't do any of that. I just let the game kind of do its thing for those moments. I like it. It feels cool. Phone stream from Dad's house. I've got those nice microphones. I can make videos while I'm gone. I always say that I will if anything happens, and then nothing significant happens while I'm gone. I've gotten pretty good at predicting when there's good times for trips. I've gotten pretty good at that, like, so that when I'm gone, nothing insane happens, whether it's like the release schedule or like actual announcements and things. So, Sucks will be out this week. Was looking forward to your daily Kirby Air Rider stream. Oh, I know. Sucker Punch's platinums are always very doable. I have platinumed each of their games since PS3 with the infamous one. Yeah, platinums just don't call to me. I generally just kind of play the game, enjoy the story, and around the time I'm rolling credits, I'm good. I'm like, yep, you had a great time. God of War is a good plat. If you just do a normal playthrough for the game, you will unlock most trophies. How dare you take away my work podcast to make sure you and your family enjoy. I appreciate that, Sean. Thank you. How considerate of your dad to have his birthday on a slow news week? No, it's actually not his. That's not what it is. Like, they were trying to figure out when we could come up because they're actually doing like a picnic. We're just also going to take up like, cards and stuff for his birthday. But it's actually not his birthday. We're just going to like take stuff because it's close enough to like give to him or whatever. That's actually not why we're going up. We're going up for like a family picnic. So, but they were asking when could we come? And so I looked at the calendar and I said this would be the best time. That's typically what we do. When we go to Florida or we go to Ohio, I typically do that. I look at the calendar and I'm like, I think this is the best time for us to do this. So, I respect people who platinum, says Dan, with two little ones. I do not have time to platinum. Yeah. For me, it's not even that. I just don't enjoy it. I feel like it takes me out of the game. So like, I'm not playing the game I'm not playing it for the trophies. I'm playing it for the game. What's interesting is like the people, I've noticed this, like the people that do that, like they trophy check and they platinum check and they use words like tourist, they tend to be the ones that they seem to be the most unhappy. It's like, it doesn't seem like you're having a very good time with games. And I wouldn't be surprised if it's because like they're not playing the game for the game. It's like the game is something, it's a means to a different end for them. You know, does that make sense? I'm not saying that everybody that goes for trophies and platinums is doing that, but I'm noticing the people that prize it the most, to the point that they prize it in like a toxic way. It's like you've taken something that's like a secondary thing and you've made it an ultimate thing. Like, this is what matters. And I feel like the game fades away when you do that. I don't know. Maybe it doesn't, but for me it would. It would 100% be disruptive, and I wouldn't feel immersed in the story. I'd be like, wait, hang on a minute. You know, I got to do this thing, or I got to do that thing, or I got to make sure I'm doing this thing. And another example I would give is, every once in a while, I would have to play PvP in Destiny for something. And if I just went in and goofed around and had fun, it was never a big deal, you know, tended to have a good time. The thing that always made it not a fun time was when I would get bounties and then I would go into PvP and try to do the bounties at the same time. It was completely disruptive to the experience, and I hated it. If I just would mindlessly go into PvP and just goof around, it wasn't that bad. But when I would go in there with the bounties, it was infuriating. It was like, get 10 kills with a sidearm, and you'd get 7 and get stuck, and you'd be like, because if you get those 3 more kills, and you can switch. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, I feel like platinums are disruptive in a similar way. Trophies are disruptive in a similar way. That's just how my mind works. Like, not everybody is like me, but that's how my mind works. I'm like, this is a distraction. This is disruptive. I don't want to do this. Here's people like, well, you know, they try to trophy check and they try to cred check. And like, you're not a real gamer. And I'm like, but that doesn't, what is that? That's not being a real gamer. Like, acting like that's what matters. Like, that's the antithesis of being a real gamer. It's like you're doing something else, which it's fine to do those other things. I'm saying when you prize it toxically, it's like you've gone beyond just like enjoyment of the checkbox or enjoyment of the platinum. Like you're almost like in another category at that point. Sometimes platinum does make you better at games. Your experience is being pushed further than expected. That wouldn't do it for me though. I just don't agree. I don't think it does anything other than give me things to do that aren't I'm not focused on the game. You know, I want to play the game and be there in the moment. It's why I'm playing Black Flag the way that I'm playing it. I'm playing it more emergent. It's like, oh yes, I just finished this quest, and like a pirate, I would go and explore this island and look for some stuff before leaving. What I wouldn't do is like hop on the boat, drive all the way around the island, go to this back obscure corner, get off the boat, climb up this mountain, and be like, yep, here's a chest. Like, I'm not doing that because I did it one time in one play session. I'm like, nope, I'm not doing this. I'm not going to let the map dictate what I do. I'm going to play this as if it's my story and my like little pirate ship, and that's what you would do as a pirate. You'd be like, well, I killed this guy or I completed this mission. Let's have a look around. You know, let's see if anything's around here for us to scavenge. I really like playing the game that way. I'm having a better time doing it that way than being like, I've got to check these boxes before I leave this island. I did a couple of islands that way, and it is satisfying getting all the chests and getting all the little check boxes. But the 3rd or 4th time you go to do it, I'm like, no, I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this. I've done this before in other open world games, and it always ends up folding back on itself. The only game it didn't fold back on itself was Tsushima and Yote, and I think mainly it's because I just enjoyed being in those games so much that I didn't care that it elongated the play sessions, and you know, I was in the game for longer. You know, I dislike when people scold you for not doing something that they do. Yeah, Game Pass was supposed to be the all-you-can-play subscription service that put Xbox on top after disastrous generation. Instead, it's a failure that's threatening to ruin the company. That's an IGN tweet. They're all having to feign surprise. We can't believe this didn't work. Lono, that's totally valid. To me, achievement hunting almost feels like going to the grocery store and checking off a list as you grab your items. It's oddly satisfying. Here's the thing, Austin. I get why it's satisfying. I do. I understand it. Up here. It doesn't speak to me down here. Does that make sense? Like, I can understand up here why people like the game of golf. Doesn't speak to me here. Doesn't do anything for me. I can watch people do it. I can listen to them break down swings and why it went this way or why it went that way and the technique and all of that. And I can appreciate how talented these guys are up here. Down here, I'm like, yeah, I don't have any desire to watch this or play this. So like up here, I'm like, no, I get it. I get the box checking. I get that. I did that in Destiny. Box checking is very satisfying. I remember doing that to the map in Spider-Man 1. I cleared the whole map. I get it. I get intellectually. I get it. Experientially, it speaks to me zero. You buy Pokemon cards? No. My kids have a bunch, but I don't. Most of their Pokemon cards were sent to them by other people. Like people that had duplicates. Flooded our P.O. box. So like, I get why people like it. Now, that's why I said there are people that go beyond platinuming. They go beyond trophy hunting, and they sort of toxically prize it. And they act as if, like, if you don't do this, you're a tourist. And it's like, at that point, you're taking something that's good and enjoyable, and you've elevated it to such an ultimate degree, it's making you, it's just, I don't know, it's almost like contorting you. It's making you act weird. What games have you played in your life that you felt you had to platinum before getting to this stage? I've never platinumed a game until Returnal, and the only reason I platinumed Returnal, I was literally one thing away. I was enjoying getting all of the weapons to 100% because it made it really fun to play the Tower of Sisyphus because all of the perks that you unlock. You become like this god tier, weapon of mass destruction. Charles Hawk with the $5 super chat says, I got the plat in the finals. I spent 3 weeks trying to get a kill with the flower pot. The pots are only on 3 maps, and it had to have red flowers. Never. What's wrong with do a backflip and hit 3 headshots with 2 different weapons before you land? Yeah, if it was that. Now, that's an exaggeration because a lot of the times they're not that crazy. But when they do get a little weird, that's like, it's a compounding effect. It's a compounding effect. You felt the hunger. It was good when you were chasing the high. But I was chasing unlocks on guns that felt more akin to like when I would go for god rolls in Destiny. So the grind that I came up with in Returnal to unlock the perks was oddly therapeutic because it was familiar. I'm really good at Returnal, and there was always that elation and satisfaction when a new perk would show up that I could work on. I also came up with a grind and a method of doing it that made it pretty efficient. Okay? So whenever I was working on that, there was something therapeutic about it. It wasn't like a hunger or like a sense of grind. And I also wasn't working on the platinum when I was doing that. It happened by mistake. While I was grinding for the weapons, I was getting like the audio logs and some of the things that I hadn't picked up yet. Like that was just, it was totally by accident. I wasn't chasing trophies. I wasn't feeling some kind of a desire or hunger or box to check. I was literally getting the weapons maxed because that to me seemed like a cool thing to do in the game. It was also kind of a tribute to how much I loved that game, to be one of the very, very small percentage of people that got the platinum, but also there aren't a lot of people out in the world probably that have every weapon in Returnal to 100%. It's probably a pretty small group, and it's like, I don't go out here and like have a badge and brag about that. It was just a cool feeling. It was a cool feeling. Did chat crash on you guys, or did everybody lurk at the same time? My chat is not loading. Okay, I got it to reload. Somebody just complained that YouTube was looping, and then a second later, the chat just died. I love watching the Kirby streams as you grind for all the challenges. Never even played it. Younger me had OCD when I had to have the nice 100% check mark next to every game. Ginger says test. We are men of taste. That's right. So Ginger said test. Where did everybody go? Did we seriously have a problem on YouTube? Like 3 people have responded. I think chat is 100% borked on YouTube. Jaster said we back. Wilbur put a thumbs up. Anthony says I'm keeping my one and only plat forever in Spider-Man 2. Was testing chat. We're here. No, something has to be wrong. Whenever I ask if chat is broken, we get flooded with people. We had like 550 people here a second ago. I'm here. It's busted. I'm here. It looped for me 3 times. It blipped for a moment, and then chat was spazzing. Okay, now there it goes. I was like, dude, something is wrong. Like, we were back and forth. We were talking, chatting, and then just boom, it just stopped. And I was like, hello? Like, what happened? We have not tried Splatoon Raiders yet. No, Muku. IGN didn't like your comment. Yeah. Yeah, that's it. That's it. YouTube just died and wouldn't load. I could tell the viewership dropped by like 50 people and the chat died. And I was like, well, YouTube just took a dive. Yeah. I try to draw people's attention to it so then they refresh, because then they'll refresh and they'll chat and we'll get back on track. So see 500? Well, it was 550, then it was 520, then it was 500, and the chat just got slower and slower and slower. And I was like, yeah, I think something's happening. I think something going on. We're getting some coffee orders, 4 bags of light, and then yesterday, Assume Parasite ordered some as well, some Frickmas. User-made maps from Steam top seller Mecha Chameleon have been found to contain malware, just as the game's official Discord server got hacked. Well, we had a handful of topics. Let me run through them again. Let's get the chat back on track here. We were talking about GTA 6 Trailer 3 and how it's going to probably show up that first week in August. We've got the official confirmation that God of War Kratos is coming after Laufey. Laufey's actually setting it up. And then we got the release date for God of War Laufey, stuffing February with one more game. Have you seen the panel for Wolverine? I did not get a chance to see any of the stuff out of SDCC, no. I enjoyed some Frickmas this past weekend, off topic, but did you enjoy Rise of the Ronin? I really liked Rise of the Ronin. Performance issues were a little grating at times, especially when there was fire. There was at least one mission with fire that was really grating. And a 10 bomb from Hidden Siryu to help us get back on track, and I owe YouTube a member. The only major criticism I had of Rise of the Ronin, like, as a game, was near the end, they were consistently putting bosses in the game that would, like, fly around the arena like Iron Man. It was pretty frustrating. It didn't seem conducive to the combat system that they had built up to that point. Like, the different weapons, the parries, the different stances, all the things. And Jack Garland drops a 5 bomb to get us to 31. Let's go out with a bang, boys. Only one day this week. Let's see what we can do with the that old member count. So, what was I talking about? Laufey coming so quickly after the announcements of Godsend, pun intended. As the biggest Naughty Dog fan, intergalactic wait can be painful. Oh yeah, Rise of the Ronin. Yeah, so I just didn't like that about Ronin. It was like, I got to the end of Ronin, and it was like, the bosses were like flying around and like shooting fire on the ground. And I was like, what? Like, I just didn't like it. I like the fights where you had to change your stances, you had to like use your other people. That was a really cool mechanic, right? You had the different people with you, so you could like switch to them, and then they had different weapons. I really liked that. I didn't like fighting Iron Man in a samurai game. It just felt kind of weird. And they weren't hard. It was just kind of dumb. It was like, can you just come down here on the ground and fight me? Because typically what you had to do when they would fly around and shoot fire on the ground, you just had to like run and dodge. It wasn't very enjoyable. It was like, okay. First Berserker Kazan did that. There were bosses that would like create like a shield or something like around you. It was like this big huge wall, and they'd be outside the wall just like shooting range attacks at you like a machine gun, and you would just have to run. And it was like, oh, okay. Like they did it more than once, and I was like, what are we doing here? It wasn't fun or difficult. It was just like, oh, it's the boss's turn to go run away and shoot at you, and you would just run. You know, and the shots are behind you, and then they'd come back and fight. Thank you, Chrono, for the raid. So, I don't know. I feel like sometimes games break their own vibe. Does that make sense? I was like, what are we doing here? Like, the whole game of Ronin, you're getting different weapons. You can leverage your friendships and training to make those weapons better, to make the stances better. It's all dope. And then you get into those late fights, and you're like, what the heck am I supposed to do with my two swords or my spear or my Hidachi or Odachi or whatever? The Odachi was Yote. I can't remember all the different weapons. But it was like, what am I supposed to do? You're just over there flying and shooting stuff at me. The AoE attacks where you had to go up to the next floor. I hated those fights. I don't remember that. Go up to the next floor. I don't remember that. I don't remember having to do that. I just remember feeling like I was fighting Iron Man in a samurai game, and it just felt a little weird. I didn't die. It was just a nuisance. It wasn't like a fail. It wasn't like it was like, oh yeah, this is really hard. It was like, what are you doing? Is there actually a third GTA trailer? The current prediction from folks in the know that have pretty good track records are saying August the 6th. Excuse me, which is a Thursday. YouTube keeps quitting on me. Yeah, there's clearly something wrong. I can tell on the back end that something's wrong. Tilu 2 came out at the end of the PS4 gen. What's he talking about? Oh, the Naughty Dog thing? Yeah, they were going to buy themselves time with Factions. Tilu 2 comes out 2020. Factions was supposed to probably come out like 2024, 2025, right? 4 or 5 years later. And then Intergalactic was probably going to come out 2 or 3 years after that. And that would have been a perfectly fine cadence. When you remove Factions from that cadence, it feels like a desert. It feels like a drought. It's like, what have y'all been doing over there? If it came out this year, I don't think anybody would have cared, because they've been like, oh, 5 or 6 years of dev cycle. That's strong dev cycle. Intergalactic is apparently not even on. I feel like we've heard it's not even on pace to come out next year, which seems insane to me. So, good morning, Chrono. Surprised Xbox is still down. Is it still down? What's it related to? Because I know when PlayStation went down, it was because of AWS. Have they attributed it to anything? What games are coming out in August worth looking? Oh, August is a handful of games. Let's see here. It's a handful. It's not. The deluge doesn't really start until September, but August is Beast of Reincarnation, I think that looks really good. Marvel Tokone Fighting Souls. Let's see. Monsters Are Coming, Rock and Road, I actually think looks quite good. That's a PC and Xbox title. Do you guys remember this one? This is like a Vampire Survivors, but like with like a tower defense. This is not a huge title, but I definitely think this is one you should pay attention to if you like these kinds of games. So the castle's like moving, right? So it has like a bit of the Vampire Survivors vibe, because you're like killing and autoing and then picking all the stuff up. But then you're like, you're leveling the castle and your character. So I would definitely check out this one. This one's called Monsters Are Coming. That's an Xbox PC game. I don't think PlayStation's getting that one, at least initially. So, also, Agent 64, Spies Never Die. Duskfade. Yeah, Mortal Shell 2 is in August. Mafia's DLC is in August. Excuse me. Let us see here. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 4 is August. Looks like Once Human is hitting PlayStation and Series X. I don't think it's been there before. And then Resonance, Plague Tale Legacy, Star Wars Zero Company. Those are also in August. Pretty big titles, I would say. And that is August. That'll get you to September. I probably didn't say everything, but... Beast Link? What the heck is Beast Link? Let me see here. Because I said Beast of Reincarnation. Beast of Reincarnation going to be a sleeper hit. Mortal Shell 2 as well. I don't know if I consider Mortal Shell 2 a sleeper hit. I think Beast of Reincarnation could definitely be a sleeper hit, though. I feel like Mortal Shell 2 is just going to be, you know, Mortal Shell guys. Like Souls guys, Mortal Shell guys, that kind of a thing. Yeah, the guy that we reacted to about GTA 6, he actually left a comment. He liked my video, and he is getting a microphone. Beast Link. What is this, like a kaiju fighting game? Kaiju battling game. Oh, this goes into early access. Yeah, I don't know about that one. Zero Company looks really fun. Yeah, I don't play those kind of games, but that one looks like there's a lot of people that are looking forward to it and excited about it. If you like those kind of like XCOM style games. Looks like Earth Defense, a little bit. You get to be the kaiju. Yeah, that I didn't see anything in that would really appeal to me. It looked a little rough. I mean, it'll be early access, which is fine, but Ecstasis is saying that Fable's development has exceeded budget. A new report indicates that development of the highly anticipated Fable has exceeded its original budget by a fairly wide margin. Journalist Jess Corden of Windows Central reveals that the game's current cost has uncomfortably surpassed the initial barrier of the executive team. The multiple years of development and the recent delay to 2027 have been the main factors. Let's just talk about this for just a second. Remember all those debates that we had about how, you know, the future, there wouldn't be exclusives. Exclusives were archaic and going away. And if you put your game everywhere, you automatically make more money. Remember those conversations? You remember how frustrating it was to be like, no, putting your game everywhere does not automatically mean you make more money, because putting the game everywhere literally makes the project take longer. So like now we're hearing not just the multiple years of development, but the delay to 2027 have been the main factors of Fable going over their budget. So when you go over budget, that's going to affect margins and the amount of money that you make. So that's why those arguments were always so frustrating, because they were made in bad faith by people that knew what they were saying was ridiculous. Now we're hearing from the very companies beneath Xbox's ownership. Xbox was the one pushing forward the idea that exclusives were archaic and, you should just put your game everywhere to make more money. And now they're talking about how exclusives are important. And now we're hearing, here's another game. It exceeded its budget. Why? Because of a delay. And you're automatically going to make a game take longer to come to market when you make it for multiple platforms, which means your budget's going to get bigger. I don't know. Street Shadow with a $5 super chat. I think the Xbox outage has shown me that the PSN outage will always get more amplified because of their market size. I feel like the Xbox reaction is muted because there's less consumers to complain. Of course, yes. It would be like if Taylor Swift canceled a concert in your city, the outrage would be higher than if some local band canceled their performance. Just less people to complain. Are you comparing PlayStation to Taylor Swift? No, but people that don't understand analogies will think that. It doesn't seem to be an isolated case at the company. Marvel's Blade is reportedly going through a similar budget scenario. Here's the concern that I have. Why are we hearing about this right now? Why? Are we hearing about these budgets because they're quite literally under scrutiny right now? Like, is Blade... We still don't know what's going on with Arcane Leon. Like, we still don't know what's happening with Arcane Leon. And it's like, yeah, I just don't know. We're hearing about these budgets now. I find that to be concerning. It's like, well, the budgets are being discussed and the budgets are being, examined because I think the projects are probably in jeopardy. Is Nintendo going to be down next? Yeah, I mean, if Nintendo goes down, there'll be, what? People mad they can't access the store. That's about it. You know what I mean? They're not really a bastion of online interaction and online games. That's not really what they're known for. They've been hiding the facts for so long. Now it's in the open. They're actually cooked. Microsoft is done with the free lunch. I saw Brad Sams making the observation. He feels like their behavior is essentially their behavior's in line with if they were going to be spinning it off. Like that's what he thinks. I don't know if I think that. I don't know if I agree with that. But Brad Sams has like been covering them for a long time, and homie was like, this all kind of looks like what you would do if you were going to sell them off. This is what he said. He said, Xbox is making a lot of moves to shore up its balance sheet with its reorg. It's going far beyond a typical overhaul at the top. If they were ever going to spin it out, they are doing the steps that would at least put them in the position to do so. He's covered him for a long time, and that's his observation right now, is that this could, I don't think he's saying that it is, but it's like, yeah, this literally could be the precursor to it being a spinoff, because that was definitely, we heard that was definitely on the table when all this started. Somebody says, was King David analysis? That question doesn't make any sense. Xbox is like Spirit Airlines, aim for budget friendly and it will get the job done, but not the best experience. I don't know if that's what they aim for. I think Phil was trying to save the brand, and he threw the ball up, and it doesn't seem like it just doesn't seem like it worked. It didn't work. I hope they start hiring very good or less known actors in the MCU and the DC. Give new actors a chance. That's the MCU's problem, though. They literally, it's like they need big names because everybody became big names. through the movies, or they became bigger names. Yeah. It was a cheeky question. I know the answer. The question doesn't make any sense, though. What do you mean? People only want to see the big MCU characters. Well, that, and you associate a lot of the big characters now with big names. That's just kind of unavoidable. That kind of happened. You know? It just kind of happened. It's like, well, now they're all associated with your brand, and people want to see them. $5 from Street Shadow. Xbox gave their studios too loose of control. Laura Fryer has good points on the negative impact of unmanaged freedom in game dev. I just don't agree that it was unmanaged game dev. I don't think that that's the cause. It wasn't about that. PlayStation's hands off with their devs. And look at what their devs do. Why? What's the difference? You're making a game, coding to the metal of one console, and you need to sell a bunch of copies. On the other side, you aren't doing that. You're not coding to the metal. You're building for Series S, X, and PC, and there was no motivation to be topping sales charts. It was cadence for Game Pass. We need games at a cadence so that we can put games on Game Pass. Make fun stuff. Make creative stuff. Like, I don't know. I think we're attributing the wrong cause. It's like, oh, it was the hands-off thing. Xbox wasn't hands-on enough. I don't think so. PlayStation would have never greenlit Keeper. It's a both and. It's not that they wouldn't greenlit Keeper. Nobody would have pitched Keeper because they wouldn't have been told, make whatever you want. Does that make sense? They were literally told, yeah, just make fun games, make quirky games. Let's get some fun games on Game Pass. Like, there would have been no Keeper because there is not PlayStation structure's not built around that. It's not that they're unmanaged. It's that they were told, they were given a level of freedom and protection that was fake. I mean, too much unmanaged freedom in combination with the Game Pass strategy. It's not a single issue is what I mean. Keeper's fine. Its budget and expectations was the problem. That's what I mean. The promise of protection and safety, it was fake, boys. It was fake. They weren't safe. They weren't protected. They weren't. It was you're safe as long as we want to fund this thing. As soon as they didn't want to fund the thing, the studios weren't safe anymore. I said this on Ginger's show. I think Hi-Fi Rush was the crack in the seal. I think everybody realized, like, wait a minute. I think at that point the jig was up. I think studios were probably like, this is not what we thought it was. This isn't what it's all cracked up to be. And that's when you probably had the sentiment around Game Pass start to shift, where it was like, we're just actively taking a hit on sales, and for what purpose? If the studios knew they weren't safe, they would have made different decisions. They were lied to. Right, like, when you saw what happened to Hi-Fi Rush, I don't see how you could be like, oh, no, yeah, we're totally safe. Like, I guess at that point, I would go to Double Fine and be like, were y'all even frickin' paying attention? And then Matt Booty comes out and is like, we need more games like Hi-Fi Rush. Right. It didn't make any sense. It was like, that's why I kind of look at Double Fine and I'm like, were you guys not paying attention? Because after what happened to Hi-Fi Rush, I wouldn't have taken assurances from Xbox about, like, make whatever you want or pitch whatever you want. I wouldn't have done what they did. They like Keeper was literally like, let's see if we can pitch something that's like the craziest idea that we have. Like, that's just kind of how they operate. They're like, oh, this will be fun. It's like, I wouldn't have done that after I saw what happened to Hi-Fi Rush. I would have started working on games that might kind of climb the sales charts. Make something that might do well on Steam. I don't know. The promise and the assurances were great. If we would have gotten another 10 years of the funding and the Game Pass strategy, those studios would be still making games. This frickin' thing. Oh, I used electrical tape. That's right. I was experimenting with electrical tape because I was like, anything that might hold this foam, more than this Gorilla Tape. Who made Shovel Knight? We need a new one for PS5. I don't know the name of the studio. I thought there was 2 Shovel Knights. I do think they need to see that the creatives at the studio might have been moving on after the check cleared. So it would have been Tango in name only. I don't know. I'm not sure what you mean. I gotta fix this. This is driving me freaking crazy. Dinner and a show, or breakfast and a show. Thanks for 28 months, Zybwild. Appreciate it. They didn't come out with a game in 4 years just to launch Keeper. Yeah, I don't know. Were they... what were their plans? I don't know. I don't know what their plans were after Psychonauts 2. I don't know how well Psychonauts did commercially. It was highly praised. It got nominations. I feel like it reviewed well. Psychonauts 2's Metacritic 87. 87, 89, 91. I just don't know. I don't know what they were thinking. I really don't. I don't know what the plan was. Were they given some level of freedom that they shouldn't have been given? I just don't know. Double-sided carpet tape. Somebody recommended wall tape for tiles. I think I'm going to try that. It's driving me nuts. I bought literal Gorilla Tape, and it just doesn't... It holds on to the boxes just fine. They're just cardboard boxes. I had all these boxes from the coffee, and I was like... And I went and looked, and they're almost the exact same size as the studio foam. And I was like, well, that's a happy little accident. I could make my own shelving for nothing. So... You're not a fan of the art direction of Psychonauts? Art direction aside, it did well. It did well in the review circuit. I don't know how well it did commercially. I don't know. Did they come to... Oh, we're getting a higher hit on GTA 6 Trailer 3. This guy says... Yeah, I'm just going to hide that. I didn't realize. I saw, yeah. Just shouting in Spanish about DEI. Mm-hmm. We need to come up with our own abbreviation. Like NCWIT. Something like that. That's a little too long. It needs to be more punchy. Nobody cares what you think. We need... You know, the constant bedwetting over alleged, things like that. It's like, nobody cares what you think. Just go away. The insane part about Hi-Fi Rush was that people forget that it was shadow dropped and had to compete with Game Pass to then punish them for lack of sales, and the metrics are crazy. Well, it's like you're building something for a trip and then you're suddenly told we're going to take an airplane. Does that make sense? I think that's the issue. It's like these people were told this is the plan, this is the goal, this is what we're going to do. And then when the plan changes, it's like, yeah, y'all got to go. This ain't going to work, or that project's not going to work. So it's like that's part of the problem is you were basically told this is where we're going, this is how we're going to get there. So people are making games and they're buying into that vision and they're good to go. Well, what do you do when that plan dramatically shifts and changes? Well, you're going to have seismic and tectonic changes at the company. You're going to have people saying, yeah, that project's got to go, that studio's got to go, whatever. Like, that's the issue. Is it's like, yeah, this is a significant change. So it's not like you can't blame the devs, you can't blame Asha. It's just this is another situation where the cards being dealt aren't very good, and they've got to make a call. And the call is, we've got to gut studios and and back the biggest IP. Has GTA 6 Trailer 3 come out yet? Kind of tired of seeing the headlines with nothing else going on. Right now, the only thing we're hearing about it is Tom Henderson from Insider Gaming. He thinks it's going to land August the 6th. He's not heard anything. It's just his prediction. But he's not alone in thinking that GTA 6 marketing is going to heat up in August. He's not the only one. We've been hearing August for a while. When Strauss Zelnick said what he said about the summer, it was to me, it was pretty clear that we were probably going to start seeing things show up in August. Now, the reason people like August 6th is it's the day before an earnings call. So we're going to see aliens before we get that trailer? No. The game's releasing in November. It's not an unknown release date now. It's not getting delayed again. If you guys haven't hit the like button yet, do me a favor and hit that like button. I appreciate it so much. Do you think they're changing how they view Game Pass and sales because they're getting back to exclusivity? I don't know what they think. I think they say whatever needs to be said in the moment. I don't think anybody has a clue what they're going to do. Least of all them. I don't think anybody knows. I think the vision is about as clear as mud right now. I blame the devs. I blame middle and top management that failed to have correct focus group testing and saw market demand when there was none. Yeah, the reason I think your analysis is terrible is because you're talking about two games. Everybody wants to act like Keeper and Kiln is what is that's all that came from these studios. They ignore Doom, the Dark Ages, and Revelations. Like you're acting like that's equal to Kiln and Keeper. That's one reason your analysis is horrible. Another reason your analysis is horrible is Hi-Fi Rush was a solid game, well built, and people seemed to like it, and it got shadow dropped on Game Pass. They didn't go forward with a game that failed focus group testing. Two obscure kind of weird games from Double Fine is not what everybody was working on. Fable's over budget, Blade's over budget, Doom the Dark Ages apparently wasn't financially successful enough to protect id Software. The constant analysis of South of Midnight was a dud. Dark Ages was a fail commercially? Yeah, which is why your analysis is horrendously awful. I blame the devs. They failed to have good focus group testing. Sure. Yes. This massive wide variety of games. Doom the Dark Ages, Hi-Fi Rush, South of Midnight, all completely different games with different art directions and style and vibe. And like, you know, getting, and I'm pretty sure Doom the Dark Ages got nominations. I'm pretty sure South of Midnight and Hi-Fi also got nominations and awards. But like, according to you, which you know nothing, but apparently you know they failed focus group testing. If the product is great, it'll drive Game Pass new subs organically. 40 million subs for Game Pass is pathetic. It is pathetic, and I think blaming the devs is equally pathetic. I think blaming the devs is equally pathetic. Game Pass was getting games like Forza Horizon and Doom, and it was also getting really, really big titles like Call of Duty. And we were constantly hearing about how people were eating good on Game Pass. Now you want to act like it's just interesting to me. I just don't have a whole lot of patience for this viewpoint because I just think it's forced. It's basically 6 years of, yeah, the devs suck. Then what in the world are you loyal to? What have you been playing? What did you get the last 6 years to make you loyal to the brand? Why defend Xbox so ardently that this is all the devs' fault? Like, the lack of growth on Game Pass, you say is the devs' fault. It's just horrible analysis. It's terrible. Like Game Pass failed. And like, this is what's interesting to me. We had to listen to people for years talk about how Game Pass was profitable, it was so great, and Xbox was killing it, and everything was amazing. And when we learned that Game Pass failed, it's not Phil's fault, it's not Xbox's fault, it's not Microsoft's fault. Game Pass failed, it's the devs' fault. If products were truly mass market appealing, it would have driven Game Pass new subs to at least 100 million. Okay. I again ask my question. If the games the last 6 years were so god-awful that it's their fault Game Pass didn't grow, why are you in here making it like it's not Game Pass or Xbox's fault, it's the devs' fault? What have you... I don't understand what you're loyal to then. Game Pass had an overall lack of sub-volume problem. And you think that's the devs' fault, which is, I think, it's probably some of the worst analysis I've seen, but it makes sense. Because people won't criticize Xbox or Phil or Game Pass. They'll criticize the devs. That's what you guys have always done. That's what the fanatics have always done. It's always the devs' fault. If a game comes to Xbox late because of the Series S, blame the devs. If studios need to be downsized, shuttered, divested, if the games don't sell well, blame the devs. Call of Duty, they lose like $300 million putting it on Game Pass. You hear that calculus and you're still like, it's the devs' fault. It's the devs' fault. Game Pass sub problem is not because of the games, it's because of the entire model and their install base. Yeah. They fostered a culture where games were devalued and not prized, and they didn't properly protect the sub-service from churn and burn. You could sign up for $10 and you could play every major game that had come out in the last 6 months, and then you could cancel it a month later. It's not the dev, I said that earlier. It's the middle and top management's fault for improper management. You're still blaming the devs. You're basically saying leadership at id Software is to blame. That's why Doom didn't sell well. Hi-Fi Rush didn't sell well because of the leadership at Tango. Your instinct is to blame the devs. Your instinct is to shield the brand and... There must be like a draft from the AC that's hitting it and pulling it down. It's gotta be. I'm not even sticking it to the box anymore. I'm just leaning it. They had Call of Duty, the biggest mass market brand in gaming, and couldn't generate subscribers. Blaming it on the devs and not a ceiling for game subscription services is a brain dead take. Tell them, Barbarian. Tell them. Like I said, this has to be some of the worst analysis I've ever heard about the situation. Like, it's interesting to me, again, we go 6 years, and the commitment is always, Game Pass is great, Game Pass is profitable, this is so much superior, PlayStation Plus is dead on arrival, like, eating good on Game Pass. And then when Game Pass fails as a business model, it's the devs. Their games have sucked. Their games have underperformed. It's their fault this happened. It's like, wait, what? But I thought everything was so great the last 6 years. How can everything be so great for 6 years, and then when Game Pass fails, you want to turn and indict the very games and studios that you were celebrating mere months ago? It's like I said, it's just pathetic. It's like, instead of being like, maybe the business analysis of Game Pass all this time was on the money, that day and date devalued the games. Maybe it's that Game Pass fostered an ecosystem of non-purchase. Maybe Game Pass wasn't properly protected against churn and burn. It's also not 40 million subs. It's like 34 or something like that. I've never heard the devs are the reason why Game Pass failed. It's a new one. Yeah, just now, Trill. I was like, what? Like, watching the gaming press feign surprise that, like, Game Pass has failed is pretty insulting. Like, it's a little insulting for them to be like, I can't believe this happened, as some of these outlets literally were like astroturfing for Xbox and Game Pass for the last 6 years, right? Like, actively running defense force for something that was obviously stupid and not going to work from anybody with, like, just high school level understanding of business. It was obvious that it wasn't going to work. And so many of these press outlets just ran defense force for it. And now they're all like, oh, it didn't work? It was a failure? Oh my gosh. Well, what are people going to have to do? They're going to have to contort themselves into a pretzel to not blame Xbox and to not blame Microsoft. They got to blame the devs. It's the devs' fault. Devs didn't make good games. Devs didn't do proper market testing. Proper market testing. They didn't develop games that had broad appeal. It's like, what? Really break this down. I really want you to think about something. What Legacy of Kain is arguing is that what matters most is being subservient to Game Pass and Xbox's success, not making cool games. It wasn't about making cool games or creative games. So, like, Hi-Fi Rush is now, can't believe they did that, right? Doom the Dark Ages, yeah, what a failure. They're not talking about the game. They're not judging the game. They're not criticizing the game. What are they saying? Well, it didn't have broad market appeal. It didn't help grow the sub base. So screw those devs. Do you see? Not a fan of games. Not a fan of the game devs. A fan of Game Pass. See, this is the mistake that Xbox made. The fundamental mistake is they had people that became infatuated with the brand. They became infatuated with the service, and none of them give a single frick about the games or the studios. They don't care. All they care about is Game Pass and the brand. That's what they're subservient to. That's what they're loyal to. They aren't loyal to the studios or the IPs, the franchises, or the games. Those things are just a means to an end. They were just weaponized in the fanboy fights on Twitter and YouTube videos. They're only as good as they're convenient for the argument, and then they're thrown into the dustbin a second later. So, Psychonauts 2, Hi-Fi Rush, Kiln, Keeper, South of Midnight, Doom the Dark Ages, just throw them all in the dustbin, call them crap because they didn't help the brand and Game Pass do well. Like, do you see? It's like they're more loyal to the brand and Game Pass. They're not loyal to the studios or the franchises or the games. Those things do not matter to them. What matters to them is the brand. This is why when like you talk to the PlayStation guys, they're really angry about what? Ask them what they're angry about. They're angry about Blue Point. They're angry about live service. Why? They like the studios. They like what the studios make. They like the games. That matters way more. They don't care if live service makes a bunch of money for Sony and PlayStation and help props up the brand. They don't care about that. Why? Well, when I interact with PlayStation fans, they seem to be more infatuated with the games. It seems like it's a better business model. It's why PlayStation fans were so mad about Blue Point. They liked the studio. They liked what the studio did. They weren't like, did you see anybody doing that? I mean, I saw some people doing that. They're like, Blue Point hasn't made anything for 6 years. I saw some people saying that. By and large, most people were not saying that. They were saying Blue Point has pedigree. Blue Point's a good studio. I said, that's short-sighted. How are you getting rid of Blue Point? Nobody sat in a chair, at least nobody that I respected, and was like, Blue Point sucks. Yeah, get rid of them. Demon's Souls remake didn't sell enough copies. I didn't see anybody saying that. I didn't see anybody saying that. Because they saw Blue Point for what they were, a talented studio with pedigree, and getting rid of them didn't seem like a good choice. It seemed like a loss. They made their player base fans of the brand instead of the games. That's where they effed up. That's exactly right. The games took a back seat. The games became fuel in the car instead of being the car. It's like you want people driving the car and thinking about the car and how cool it is and how comfortable it is and how it handles turns. No, they all got in the car of Game Pass. As long as Game Pass was getting a cadence of games, they could go to Twitter and celebrate. They could make their videos and celebrate. The games were a means to an end. It was like, no, just keep putting those games into the wood chipper of Game Pass. Who gives a frick? And now when it all comes full circle and you have brands undeniably reporting the reality, the facts, and what Asha is saying, got to blame somebody. Can't blame Xbox. Can't blame Microsoft or Asha. Well, we'll blame the devs. It's their fault. Their games weren't good enough. A $5 super chat from Yelex. I feel like these corporations are shutting down networks on purpose. The other day, the PlayStation server was down. Now it's Xbox. PlayStation was down because of AWS. I don't think anybody did that on purpose. When AWS goes down, it's catastrophic and very costly, and it's a loss of revenue. I don't think anybody would do that on purpose. Legacy says, live service works because it hooks you in every single month. Game Pass had no hook beyond the first month of sub. Playing a brand new game on day and date, and then they churn. No hook, they stay. Legacy, that's better analysis. When you start saying they didn't make games with broad appeal, it's like that wasn't the goal. The goal was that Game Pass always had something new to work against the very thing that you're talking about. What they didn't realize is people could still wait. You could still wait and subscribe and play like 6 games in a month and then cancel. AWS is Amazon Web Services. It's what a lot of websites and companies run on. So like PlayStation's network runs on AWS, and when AWS goes down, PSN goes down. See, don't you see? Legacy, that's why I told you, like, your analysis is so bad. It's like you're blaming the studios. The studios were trying to feed the burn rate. That's why, but blaming the devs is so silly to me. I'm like, they were trying to alleviate the churn and burn rate. You need something in there every month so people are like, yeah, I should keep it. There's new stuff coming. You want to turn around and be like, oh, but these games didn't have broad appeal. Well, they were smaller in scope. They were creative. They were cool. You know, Hi-Fi Rush and, South of Midnight and Keeper and Kiln. None of those games were designed to be chart toppers. They were designed to be creative games to put on Game Pass. So you have fun trailers to show at your events to talk about games coming to Game Pass. And to act like Doom the Dark Ages didn't do proper market research. Man, get out of here. They're id. What are we talking about? They made a Doom. They made a fun Doom. You didn't have to like its deviation from what people loved about Eternal, but it was still a good and well-built Doom game. $10 from Street Shadow. Game Pass copied Netflix, but games aren't consumed like TV. Gamers spend 50 to 100 hours on one game. So why pay $27 a month for games you will never get to? Right. Yeah. A subservice needs both new subs and low churn, high win back. Yeah, see, now you're doing a criticism of the subservice legacy of Kane, which is what you should be doing. Game Pass failed the fundamentals of a subservice because they focused more on quantity and cadence. They didn't focus on like, well, why is anybody going to keep this? Now, when it was $10, here's another thing that happened. When it was $10, it was kind of a mindless decision. You would sign up for 10, and a lot of people probably just forgot about it. But they started fighting a losing battle. They plateaued, which means they're going to do what every subservice does when you plateau. You raise the price. Well, when you raise the price, people are going to start to bail. They're going to start interacting with your subservice in a very different way. If I didn't have kids that liked watching a bunch of the stuff they like to watch on Netflix, I would have canceled Netflix after the last Stranger Things season because I would have had no reason to stay on the subservice. I'm like, that was the only reason I kept it. I wanted to see how the story ended. I'd have canceled it. But my kids watch a bunch of the stuff on Netflix. That's the only reason I still have it. I don't watch anything on there. So it's like, again, you're always going to face that. You are always going to face that dilemma with a subservice. How do you keep people? Once they're not watching or engaging, especially when you got to raise the price, people are going to be like, I've not used this in a while, you know? People are never just going to leave their Game Pass sub untouched. Not for that price. No, once you got out of the $9.99 pricing range, the whole optics on it changes. The other thing that I don't think Phil could have foreseen, and I don't fault him for this, is it became like a gold rush. Gold rushes make ghost towns. Everybody bum rushed the subservice, and the consumers got fatigued. You know, that was a hard thing. That was a hard thing for him or for anybody to predict. That was a really hard thing for him or anybody else to predict. That there was going to be such an overwhelming number of subservices everywhere that people were going to get dadgum fatigued by them, whether it's Hulu, Disney Plus, Peacock, or the ones on the gaming services. Doom Dark Ages ping pong parry mechanic and removing glory kills was disliked by the broader Doom 2016 Eternal audience. Those changes could have been identified and fixed through focus groups. Right, but listen to what you're saying. Appeal to the core audience or try to make a game that was more broadly accepted. Like maybe it was considered a little bit more casual or what have you. Do you see, like, you kind of can't win in that scenario, brother. They certainly, yes. They could have tried to appeal to the Doom 2016 and the Doom Eternal audience. Yes, they could have done that with focus groups. But you know what would have happened, brother? They would have appealed to that core and probably had the exact same commercial amount of success because they would have been on Game Pass day and date, which hurts them, and it would have been the third installment in a franchise that's been around for a long time. And so you would have limited the scope and the reach. I'm not saying they made the right call. I actually think they got a little too indulgent with the dragon levels. I think they got too indulgent with the kaiju fights where you're in like the big mech suit, and I thought the parry was way too much. What's good, T-Funk? There was way too much of the parrying at the end, like the final boss, kind of a lose-lose situation, right? And my hackles get raised when people want to start blaming the devs, and I'm like, that seems just so. It just seems so lopsided. They did what they were told. They did what they were dadgum told. And their games had lower reach because of it. That's a facts. And now that we're seeing that Game Pass failed, and now that we're hearing from outlets that Game Pass failed, I don't think turning and blaming the devs makes any sense. Well, if the devs would have made better games, they would have had way more subs. As you just said, the biggest problem was it was too easy to interact with Game Pass on a churn and burn habit. You had people doing loopholes for $1 as well. I think all of those elements of the equation are better analysis than just like the superficial sort of like, well, devs kind of sucked it up. The devs sucked it up, so it's their fault. And I'm like, chasing low value customers doesn't work when you're spending $100 million on your games. I was AFK on Game Pass for like 7 months. They raised the price, canceled immediately. Yeah, I've talked about that, T-Funk, where like you get that email and you're like, I still have that? Like how many boyfriends, girlfriends, and husbands and wives have had that conversation? Babe, we still have Netflix? Like, you know what I'm saying? You do that all the time, unless you set the calendar reminder, especially when you sign up and they're having like a deal, get 3 months for $4 or something. You sign up for those deals. Those price increases are brutal because all of a sudden a bunch of people are like, oh, I still have that. And then they go and they cancel it. That leads to almost immediate churn rate because people probably weigh it. And they're like, I've played a game on Game Pass once in the past 4 months. I don't really need that. And, when it's $10, you're just like, oh, who cares? If I see something, I'll play it. Once it gets beyond that, you're like, yeah, I can save that money. If Phil actually made the dev teams they bought make games, Game Pass wouldn't have flopped the way that it did. Now, Asha's got to figure out who gets a piece of that pie. I don't agree with you. I don't think if they would have made more games, it would have changed the scenario. Did I still pay for Xbox Gold to keep my gamer tag? Yes. I don't think that was the issue. It was a fundamental broken business strategy. It has nothing to do with how many games came out. There were so many games. There were so many games. Every month we saw the pictures. I was like, wow. Not always first party. A lot of times it was third party, but that's fine. That's still a value. Getting Expedition 33 and Silksong, those were big wins for Game Pass subs. Those were big wins, man. Isn't another big one coming this year? Is it Beast of Reincarnation? Am I misremembering? I feel like there's at least one or two big names still landing this year. Some anticipated titles are still hitting Game Pass this year. I've not even scratched the surface of my Netflix content. It's overwhelming and most are very watchable, if not even award worthy. It keeps me hooked. Is it? It is Beast? Yeah. Beast of Reincarnation is another big win. They had somebody they had somebody in that department who was like going and getting third-party games for Game Pass. They had somebody making really good calls. Somebody saw the quality and the potential for Expedition 33, and then somebody was like, we need to get that Silksong game. Whoever secured those contracts deserves a raise. Those were big wins. But again, they're probably kicking themselves because they probably would have made more money doing 30% scrapes on the sales of Expedition 33 and on the sales of Silksong. Think about it from that perspective. Somebody somewhere at Microsoft has to be looking at this calculus and saying, what are we doing? Because, Apple makes more money than all these companies combined because they 30% scrape every purchase, every game, app, microtransaction, doesn't matter. Apple's scraping it, right? It's why when you do gifted members and memberships in the YouTube app on the iPhone, it's more expensive, right? They're scraping. And then so YouTube builds in a cushion so they don't lose money. Okay, so if you're an executive and you see that, and Xbox isn't dumb, they're looking at the 30% scrape that has to go to PlayStation on games like Call of Duty, on games like Minecraft, okay? So think of it from that perspective. An executive at Microsoft is like, now wait a minute. What are we doing here? We could have been getting a 30% scrape of revenue off of a popular game like Silk Song that broke every storefront it showed up in. We could have been getting a 30% scrape on Expedition 33, the game that took over the world. Everybody was talking about it, and it went on to be the Game of the Year winner. We could have been getting a 30% scrape, but instead we spent money to put it on Game Pass, and then people on Game Pass didn't have to buy those games. What are we doing? That's what an executive is saying. It's like in Arrested Development when they take $1 out of the cash register and throw $1 in the trash. You're not just paying to put the game on Game Pass. That's money going out. You're actively not getting the money coming in from the 30% scrape of all the purchases. It kills me that the gaming press is now acting surprised that this didn't work. It hurts, man. It really does. It absolutely hurts my head. It makes me sad because it's like so much time and energy wasted. Wait, why is this not working? There's a new thing on X. It's saying, scan this. There we go. Scan this QR code. They're calling it X money. Money's unavailable right now. Yeah, they pushed out the update today. Everybody's probably blitzing them with it. If you had done the 30% scrape, you also wouldn't have had to spend the money to get the game in your service. That's exactly what I'm saying, Zinthos. They were getting hit from both sides. They were actively spending money to put it on Game Pass and then actively not receiving money on the 30% scrapes. It's absolutely crazy. Marvel's Wolverine previews are going to drop August 13th. Press visited Insomniac. Yeah, I just saw somebody in my feed saying they got to play Wolverine. Yeah. Marvel's Wolverine previews drop August 13th. Press visited Insomniac Games to get hands-on with the game and interview the team. Everything's heating up, boys. It's going to heat up in August. Double whammy. That's why I said, if you've ever seen the Arrested Development show, they're running this banana stand, and they want to steal money from the cash register. And they think they can hide their tracks by taking $1 out of the cash register and then throwing a banana away. It's like you're hurting your sellable inventory and you're taking money out of the cash register. It's like you're getting hit twice. The guy tries to say, wait, I don't think that math is right. And they just do it anyway, right? It's I think it's Maybe and Michael. They're and this is literally what it is. It's like they were actively taking money out of their own bank account, paying for those games to go on Game Pass, and then not getting the money that would have come in from the sales. And they picked really, really popular games. So like the scouting agent that saw the value in Expedition 33 and Silk Song, they had really good foresight, but unfortunately, being good at their job actively worked against them and their revenue streams, because you basically gave a bunch of people the ability to not buy super popular games. Yeah, there's always money in the banana stand. That's right. I still think a subservice is the future if they keep increasing game pricing. When it went to $70 a game plus tax. I mean, yeah, I could see some consumers doing that. Being like, oh, we need to retreat to subservices because buying games has become too expensive. Yeah. I could see some people doing that and being like, this is a more economical way to game. The dilemma with your prediction would be consumers only buy a couple of games a year. The idea that they're going to say, yeah, I only buy a couple of games a year, I'm going to go do a subservice where there's just it's like you're just going to get inundated with games. You know? It would be like saying, man, soda's gotten too expensive. You know, I was buying a 12-pack every now and again. I think what I'm going to do is do this soda subservice thing where, like, I'm constantly getting 12 packs delivered to the house, and then you have too much. You'd be like, yeah. Like, I don't know if the preference of the consumer would shift that sharply to be like, this is what I need instead. Going from buying 2 games, maybe 3 games a year, to wanting a subservice where, and especially if the subservice prices stay where they are, the subservices aren't cheap either. It's not like you can go and run and sign up for a subservice now for like $10. People are getting priced out is healthier than a race to the bottom. Sorry. This guy says agreed. It's like dumping Spider-Man Brand New Day on Disney Plus, day and date, while being released in the theater. It would be counterproductive. Yeah, I kind of agree. A race to the bottom is value destructive and probably bad for the industry itself. Pricing people out, you're likely to still hit equilibrium and still make good money. Like, at the end of the day, if you race to the bottom, you end up making it hard to make money. Do you see? Like, a race to the bottom creates a slowness in the revenue, but it also can create a devaluation of the product and make things untenable. But if you price people out, that doesn't mean you're going to have catastrophic loss of customers. You're going to have less people purchasing. But you have to remember, when you price people out, all of the individual sales that continue have better margins than previous. So it's like it's not as damaging. Like, a race to the bottom seems so much better, and people throw words around like pro-consumer, and it's like, but is it really pro-consumer if you're actively destroying the thing that they love? It's like, how is that pro-consumer? Like, Game Pass was so pro-consumer, but it actively harmed studios, it actively harmed property, it actively harmed, the games that came out. Did that help the consumer? Do you see what I'm saying? Big budget AAA games need full price sales at launch to pay the bills. It's that simple. Yeah, that's why I think that'll be the next big announcement. I think one of the next big announcements from Asha, I think day and date's got to go. Like, think about what they've been signaling. They're gonna invest their money in the bigger IPs. You can't do that and throw them on Game Pass day and date. AOZ says it's because they need to include the full studio overhead into the operational cost of Game Pass. They didn't. They expected studios to make profit, given some small kickback from Game Pass. If they did this right from the beginning, Game Pass selection would have been more modest. Yeah. It would have been more like an additive VIP thing than a... They made it central to the brand. Like, instead of being excited to be on Xbox and the games that were then associated with Xbox, people were excited to be on Game Pass. So it's like, you kind of dislodged the consumer's loyalty from studio, game, and Xbox, and they became loyal to Game Pass. And even then, they weren't really loyal to Game Pass. They were loyal to themselves. They were frugal. They were like, well, I can save a lot of money here. It's hard to compete with that. It's hard to compete with somebody's self-interest. You know? How do you compete with the consumer's self-interest? They're going to look out for themselves before they're going to look out for you. This is a point that I don't think we've made enough. When we say that you fostered an ecosystem of non-purchase, sometimes people feel like, oh, you're blaming the consumer. And it's like, well, not exactly. The consumer's behavior was an emergent property. It's like, This was something that came out of the business decisions of Xbox. You're never going to compete with the consumer's self-interest. You're not going to do it. This is why I remember when people were like, well, if they really like the games, they should go and buy the games. And I'm like, but why? That's not in their interest. It doesn't make any sense for the consumer to do that. They're not going to act against their own best interests. Do you do that? Do you like watch a show that you really like on Netflix or something and go, now maybe if you really like it, you'll go buy collector's editions and stuff like that because you're a huge fan. But generally speaking, you're not going to go and buy stuff because you're like, oh, I need to help the studios. I need to help the devs. That would be working against your own interests because you could save that money and spend it on something else. And within gaming, they're definitely going to do that. They're going to be like, oh, I could save this money and spend it on microtransactions in Warzone or Apex or Fortnite, or I could spend it on a big game release that's coming, that maybe isn't going to Game Pass or what have you. You can't compete with the consumer's, self-interest. They're gonna choose themselves over you every day of the week, and I don't expect anything less. Why would you expect them to not do that? Why would you expect them to not do that? It's actually not pro-consumer if it hurts the industry as a whip, which it did. You buy your favorite shows. The average consumer is not doing that, though. I think that's kind of the issue I always come back to, is it's like, I don't think they had good foresight with respect to consumer behavior. The consumer was always going to act within their own best interest, and their best interest was be on Game Pass as little as possible for as little as possible and extract the maximum amount of value. That's what people did. So they were either on it for 2 or 3 months at a time, or they tried to sign up for like $1. They were going to give as little as they could and get as much as they could. That was the natural response. I would never have bought Expedition 33. I played it on Game Pass and loved it. By the time I beat it, I had zero reason to turn around and buy it. I don't feel some weird obligation to spend additional money to support the studio. It's not on me. No, it's not on you to act against your own self-interest. No. Not in consumerism. No. If you want to talk about like how you interact with your fellow man, being altruistic, neighborly, loving others, and putting them before yourselves, that's a different conversation. Expecting the consumer to ever work against their own interest is absolutely idiotic. They're not going to do it. They're not. And I think that was the fatal mistake. And that's why I think blaming the devs, as I said earlier, and I respect Legacy of Kain for sticking around, because I was pretty critical. I was like, I think your analysis is terrible. I don't think it's the devs' fault at all. I don't. If I come to you and I say, hey, what we care about here is morale. I want you to work at your own pace. If it takes you a week to finish a project or a month, we don't care. We feel like we're going to get better quality out of you if you work at your own pace. Well, if I come back 6 months later and say, you're all fired. Well, why? Well, your work was great. It just took too long for you to make it. It just took you too long to make it. They'd be like, wait a minute, but that's what you told us to do. Like, when you have that vision cast and you have that vision transfer with your people, coming back later and blaming them is just weird. Like, that's why I said last week, that's not accountability. That's not accountability. How did Disney Plus succeed? They kind of circled the wagons, did they not? They yanked all their stuff from all the other platforms. If you wanted to watch their stuff, you had to go to them. You couldn't go anywhere else. That's why I keep posting the hot dog suit meme. We're all trying to find out the guy who did this. Yeah. Excuse me. I disagree with some of these consumer takes. Saying they don't need to care is naive. Being aware of the implications of buying and throwing plastic away is monumental in the long run. Well, yes, like raising consumer awareness about, you know, if you're consuming or doing something that's, you know, destructive or something. Yeah, but again, I don't think you can expect consumers to act against their own self-interest. $20 from Dan. I've said this on many of your videos, but I think Xbox should follow the PlayStation Plus Premium. Have those big title games arrive on Game Pass a year after they're released. I'm not exactly sure how they're going to restructure Game Pass, but I think they're going to have to do it to a certain extent. They're going to have to do something. They're going to have to do something. It can't stay the way that it is. It fundamentally works against the things that Asha is signaling they need to do. If you're wanting to invest in your bigger IPs, you're wanting to pick certain of those IPs for exclusives, you can no longer do day and date. You can't. It doesn't work in the math. That's the thing that I think people are kind of like holding their breath on. Because if you're diehard and you've been covering and defending Xbox all these years, I don't know what you're going to do when they gut that. It's like there's only so many things they can kind of take away before it's like, what in the world is the brand even going to look like anymore? If they get rid of day and date, I think people are collectively holding their breath. Because I think deep down they know it's coming. They know it's coming. If you say the business isn't healthy and you're going to invest in your bigger IPs, I don't see a path forward that doesn't include gutting day and date. I don't see a path forward. Why is the success of third-party games on Game Pass not evidence that Xbox wasn't releasing appealing enough games? Well, I think that's a fair question, but I think you're ignoring something in the question. The question is ignoring the reality of shipping on PlayStation. So when a third-party game ships, a Capcom game, let's take, Silk Song and Expedition 33. We know that both Silk Song and Expedition 33 climbed the sales charts on PlayStation as well as Steam. Silk Song especially, I think, did very well on Steam. Okay. I think you have to include that in your calculus. That you can't say that of those other games when they came out. They didn't land on PlayStation. Now you could say, oh, but they also landed on Steam. They landed on PC as well. You could look at South of Midnight. You could look at like Hi-Fi Rush. You could look at Doom the Dark Ages, and you could say, well, they started coming to PlayStation. Yeah, later. Well, Doom the Dark Ages was a multi-plat. I'm sorry. Doom the Dark Ages was multi-plat at launch. I think it was already built, and there was probably no pulling back that one. Which again, Doom, you could argue, why didn't it sell enough copies? We'd have to look at, like, did a bunch of people go and grab Doom on, Game Pass through the Xbox store? Did they get diminished sales on Steam? Like, has Doom historically been a chart topper on PlayStation? I don't know. I don't. I'm not. Doom is I think one anomaly in the equation. Some of these other titles though didn't hit PlayStation until later, and it's like, well, yeah, that's going to diminish your sales. That's going to diminish your strength. whether it was South of Midnight or they brought over, Grounded. They brought over South of Midnight. They brought over Indiana Jones. They brought over all those titles that they brought over. Well, they're not going to sell as well if they would have sold day one. That's why I'm saying, if they're arguing right now that we need to focus on our biggest IPs, and some of those are going to be exclusive, I don't think you can do that again. I don't think you can take a game, make it exclusive, and put it on Game Pass day and date. It's going to hurt the very thing that they're trying to rectify. Yeah, Sea of Thieves did well. But again, did well, but relative to what, though? Like, did it do what they needed it to do to greenlight another project or what happened? Yeah, Starfield came later as well. You could go to each individual game and try and figure out, like, well, why didn't Doom sell enough copies? Why didn't South of Midnight sell enough copies? Why didn't Hi-Fi Rush sell enough copies? You could do that with every single game. You're going to come to different conclusions. You're going to come to different reasons every single time. I don't think every single game can be blamed on the same thing. But what's in the room every single time affecting sales is exclusivity, if it's an exclusive, because not all of their games were exclusive. Some of their games launched multi-plat. Some of their games came over later. But, did it launch exclusive? Secondly, was it on Game Pass day and date? We know those are factors in the equation that diminish sales. We know. So I believe that those things, I believe those things are at odds with each other. You can't, I don't think they could continue to go forward and do both. I feel like E-Day and Clockwork Revolution, they might be some of the last of their kind. A game to launch exclusive and be on Game Pass day and date. I think they might be the last of their kind. I could see that changing. Going forward, they could be like, no, we can't do this anymore. Do you see what I'm saying? I'm not trying to say everything that happened with Doom, it's all on Game Pass. But what I'm saying is, when you diminish a game's sales with Game Pass, it's pretty frustrating to use their lack of sales as an indictment. If South of Midnight didn't sell enough copies, if Hi-Fi Rush didn't sell enough copies, right? If Avowed, whatever the game is, Game Pass day and date's always in the room. It's always in the room. It's like, well, that was a contributing factor to the diminished sales. That's why I keep saying, I think going forward, if their goal is to leverage their biggest pieces of property, somebody in the room is going to be saying that. We can't, you can't do this. You can't put these games on day and date. That's antithetical to what we're trying to do. We're trying to right the ship. We're trying to get these games, profitable. King David said he preferred to have exclusives over day one Game Pass on Iron Lords. I think that many people would choose that. Do you want to know why? That increases value for the ecosystem and the console. Game Pass just lets you save money. What's the difference between me and you if you launch... Let's take Gears of War E-Day as an example. It was planned for PlayStation. Let's imagine that it was still coming to PlayStation. What's the difference between me and you when I buy E-Day and you play it on Game Pass? What's the difference? The only difference is you spent less money than me. We're both playing the game. If that's the only barrier, it's like, oh, okay. So think about that. Instead of bragging about, yeah, dude, Wolverine happens on PlayStation, you're saying, yeah, man, spent less money than you. As a bragging right? Is that really a bragging right? It's not quite the same, is it? You're not like, yeah, man, you want to play Gears? You better get an Xbox or a PC. But that's not quite the same as, yeah, I know y'all are playing Halo Campaign Evolved, but I didn't buy it. That was one of the hallmarks of bragging rights these last 6 years was you're bragging about not buying games. That's what you're going to puff your chest out on. it's a lot more potent in the market to be like, nope, Gears is an exclusive. Haha, yeah, we got Gears. Yeah, Clockwork's an exclusive. Haha, we got that. Instead of being like, yeah, well, we spend less money than you. Ha 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 ha. Like, what? I would bet a lot of people would agree with him and say they'd rather have exclusives than day one on Game Pass, because they can pick and choose, you know, what games they want to buy, and those games add that value point, instead of being like, well, yeah, it's great that I get all these games on Game Pass, but they're also going over to PlayStation. The only difference is they just have to buy it and I don't. That's not a very potent bragging right. It's not bragging rights. It's nice to save money. Right, but you know that people that are in these spaces are going to want to have something that makes their ecosystem, their console, seem cooler and better, or what have you. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, they want to have those bragging rights. What are you talking about? It's baked into the way we think about these things. You want to brag about your team winning. You want to brag about your favorite sports team. You want to brag about, you know, a game that you like doing really, really well. That's a common thing in these spaces. I really don't think that's gonna, you know, go away. They've been using it as a bragging right, though. Right, but they know what's a better bragging right. Listen, they know deep down that over the last 6 years, they would have rather had been able to brag about killer exclusives than spending less money. If you ask them, you know, behind closed doors, hey man, level with me, dude, come on. They would be like, yeah, bro, like, what are you talking about? This hasn't been fun for us. You know. The Xbox guys would level with you off camera, a lot of them. They would be like, yeah, man, this has not been fun for us. This has been pretty miserable. You know. Some of them will just own it and be like, we're just out here fanboying and having fun. And they admit that they're just making, you know, spinning things and acting like, you know, a persona or a character. But I think a lot of them behind closed doors, off the record, you know, no cameras rolling, they'd be like, yeah, this has sucked. This has been miserable. Bragging about being frugal is a tough flex for sure. Yeah. You know, what'd you get for lunch today? Subway. Yeah, me too. How much you pay for that? I got half off because I'm a part of their sub club. Like that, you. You know, you wouldn't do that. You wouldn't do that. You wouldn't be like trying to brag to somebody. Like, yeah, I got the same thing you did, but I got it for less money. Like, not a strong bragging point. It hasn't been fun, you know, for that side in particular. I rented my sub. You paid full price. That's right. That's Trivago marketing. You jest, but some folk would. I think they'd be more apt to be doing that in a goofy way than a serious way, but you know. If you're broke, boy, just say so. I love that her saying that has been immortalized as a meme. Oh my golly. I guess I would rather just have easier access to games than be able to brag. Yeah, access to games has never bothered me. I want the games to be really, really good. Somebody get these beggars out of here. That's right. I think it's because I don't think I ever balked at the idea of having to buy something in order to get the thing that I wanted. Like, at a ground level, like, that's never bothered me. I remember I was playing on the GameCube, and then my friends in high school were playing games on PCs. I went from going over to my friend's house all-nighters with a Nintendo 64 to the GameCube to all of my friends started PC gaming. So what did I do? I saved my money, and me and my friend built my first PC at his house so that I could play Quake 2 with them. Right? Well, I wasn't sitting there like incensed at the reality that like, well, why can't I play with you guys on my GameCube? This is anti-consumer. The fact that I can't play Quake 2 with you guys on my GameCube, man. Like, I was just like, oh, that's what I need? Okay, cool. Let's build a good PC. Right? You know, fast forward all those years doing PC gaming, so that was, 1999. Fast forward all the way to I get married in 2007, and my PC's just not up to snuff anymore. I can't play the games. Now, I could have upgraded, but I chose Path of Least Resistance, and I also did the friend thing again. My friends were getting Xbox 360s. So I was like, oh, I'll just buy a 360. No, I did not get my account yet back on Twitter. Twitter's support is literally non-existent. It doesn't exist. Their support is a joke. Everyone's like, oh, Elon fired all these people and the platform still runs. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't still run. You can brute force somebody's password even when they have two-factor. I literally had two-factor. I was able to use the account for about 2 weeks because I could log in with the phone. And I went back and forth and back and forth and back and forth with them. They literally have no means of account recovery if you lose access to the original email. So then I DM'd their support, and they said, we've opened up a ticket, you'll hear back, and blah, blah, blah. And that was last week on the 24th. It's been 3 days, 2 to 3 days. Haven't heard a single thing from their official support channels. The platform is a joke. It's overrun with bots. You get DM bots, spam bots, porn bots, and then they brute forced my account. It's like, you can't run an audit on the account. Like, are you guys stupid? Like, your platform's owned by Elon Musk, and you guys are too stupid to run an audit on the account and see, oh wow, for the entirety of the life of this account, it's been interacted with a Kentucky IP. It's been this guy in this city from these IPs. And all of a sudden, probably somebody from another country breaks in, steals it, and you don't help me get it back? Like, how stupid are you guys over there? You don't have the ability to do that? That should take 5 seconds. That should take 5 seconds. You should be able to run an audit on the account and be like, oh, it's his picture, it's his cell phone number. Oh, and he's interacted with the account from an IP address in Kentucky for the last 10 years. The whole thing is stupid. That should take 5 minutes for somebody to fix. But it's like it's a platform that's not run by anybody anymore. They got rid of all the support. There's nobody. They don't even have a means of getting the account back. It's like I literally could verify via two-factor with my cell phone. The cell phone number that was on there the entirety of the life of the account. Another thing they could have audited. They could have audited the profile and seen, oh yeah, he's had this phone number on the account for 8 years. Yeah, just let him get back in with that and let him change everything. He probably fired all the non-essential people. Yeah. He's busy arguing with journalists. Yeah. Checking the news feeds here. Nothing really. Back to kind of Comic-Con kind of stirred everything up with God of War, Wolverine, everything. Back to kind of nothing. That's not you on Twitter. It's me on Reforge Gaming. My older account, we had two accounts. I started Reforge Gaming because I wanted to have a fresh account, because the old account was Say No to Rage, and it was, blocked by like millions of people overnight because they didn't even, who cares when there's a cancel brigade. And so, but we ended up reusing the old account, and I changed it to like Reforge Media, which is basically the parent company. And it's a larger account. It's got farther reach. So, I would tweet at Reforge Gaming, and then I would use the Reforge Media account to retweet my stuff. One night, all of a sudden, I got a ping. I got my two-factor ping. Somebody was trying to get into the account, and I was like, oh. Now, I've had that happen before. I've had that happen, like somebody's trying to reset a password ever, and you get the two-factor, and you just ignore it. So, I was like, huh. Asked Creature if it was him trying to log in. He said no. I came into my office. The password had already been changed. That's not on me. That's a flaw in their security. I literally had two-factor set up. Well, two-factor's not strong enough. Shut up. Like, that's on them. That's a flaw in their system. You let somebody from a completely different IP. So I don't know how they did it. I still don't know how they did it. None of my stuff's compromised. None of my, I don't click on links. I don't click on DMs, especially on that account. I barely use it. So, I don't think I'll do anything with Star Wars Zero Company, no. That would be like me. That's just not a game I would have any commentary on. I don't play games like that. So. You messed up. You need three-factor. Yeah. The idea that like the impetus is all on you to go through like 18 extra layers of things because these platforms are like, I don't know. It's like it's not on the platforms to protect your account anymore. It's all on you. You have to have like 18 layers of security, like an encrypted password, two-factor, a key, an authenticator. You need to do all of that. Your account randomly got banned on Twitter. Yeah, somebody probably brute forced their way into it and then started spamming. They always push crypto. It's like these crypto bros. It's like that's how a lot of the websites are trying to get people to use their websites, is they hack accounts and then they spam it, and hopefully what they're trying to do is they're hoping that like they're hoping that your trust of an account that you don't realize is compromised will get you to click on the links. Is the Tomb Raider game coming out in a couple of days before Laufey, a new game or a remake? It's the remake. It's kind of not just a remake. It's like a complete reimagining of the original. It's not like a one-to-one remake. The new game got pushed out of 2027 into 2028. I forget the name of it. But it's the brand new Tomb Raider game is not coming out next year. And the one that is coming out, it's like a complete reimagining. You see that the Bungie manager got hit at the airport in Orlando? What do you mean he got hit? I don't really like the games anymore, but are you going to try Mortal Shell 2? I mean, I could certainly try it. I tried Mortal Shell 1 and I didn't like it. I couldn't get into a flow state with like you turn your body into armor and stuff like the gameplay. I couldn't get into a flow state. I didn't like it. It felt weird to me. Some games, like, you play it and within 5 minutes you're like, oh, I love this. Like, I played First Berserker Kazan, the demo, and I was like, within 5 minutes I was like, I love this. Same thing with Onimusha. I was like, oh, this is great. She was attacked leaving GCX. Huh? How? Like, what did they do? Yo, thanks for the 5-stream streak, Jack. What if Rockstar says screw it and they drop GTA Online in Feb? I don't think PlayStation would have selected February if they probably knew that. Was she like streaming or something? Or did she just say, hey, something happened to me? Like, how did it transpire? She had a cut on her head? What the heck? Did they know who she was? Yeah, I can't see her tweets. She went protected. I was following her on my other account, and we DM'd, and she was nice, but I don't have access to that account anymore. I can't even see her tweets. Yeah, she locked her account. I mean, maybe she locked her account for her own safety. Like, if somebody saw her and recognized her and did that, that's freaking crazy. That's unhinged, man. I hope they got the person and, like, arrested them. That's insane to do. That's, like, really, that's, like, unsettling. Like, as a public person, when that kind of stuff happens, you're like, people are dadgum crazy, man. Yeah, her Twitter is protected now. I can't see anything. She says, so Destiny players really hate me, apparently. The incident occurred at the airport, not during GCX event. GCX advised contacting law enforcement. The author stated that GCX was safe, healing, and asked not to let this overshadow the joy of the weekend. I don't understand, though. It's just like a cut at her hairline. So somebody just came up and hit her and ran away? That's... What the heck? Why did the airport do anything? That doesn't make any sense. Why would she did... I don't know. Did she tweet any more? I'd be talking to the stinking airport and be like, dude, why was this even able to happen? There's usually security all over the place. The experience is incredibly safe. I was always able to get to a safe spot. I was surrounded by the most amazing people. There's a lot of unfocused anger out there right now. I'm lucky to have had people in my corner to make me feel safe. GCX, of course, immediately reached out because they're amazing and really pulled out all the stops. Yeah, again, I have questions for the dadgum airport. Like, there's usually security. I know what airport. I'm assuming she was at the Tampa airport. There's no reason that should have happened. She should be talking to them and being compensated. Oh, is the Orlando airport. Oh, I don't think I've ever been there. I was assuming she flew into Tampa and then drove up, because usually it's easier to get flights to Tampa. Tampa's a really nice airport. I'm picturing that airport, and I'm like, you would have never gotten away with that. Like, there's security, there's people everywhere. That's crazy that somebody apparently just went up and hit her, like, right here at her hairline, and then I guess they ran away. She doesn't have any other, I don't know what they did, but I'm assuming it was a sucker punch and then they ran. That's something that a coward would do. Number one, attacking a woman. Number two, like, you're not going to do it in a way where they can fight back. You're going to hit them and run away. Oh, they threw something at her. Yeah, coward. 100%. Just some coward. That's worse than a sucker punch. That is worse than a dadgum sucker punch. Again, I'd be talking to the airport. I'd be getting on that dadgum camera system. They could find out who the person was. They know everywhere. They know everybody that comes in and out. I mean, I guess unless she was in like a main area and the person hadn't gone through security yet. I don't know. Like, did she talk to the airport? I would have gone to the airport security right away and like, this is where it happened. They'd pull up the camera grid system. They'd know where you were. They'd look at the footage. They'd be able to backlog it and see where that person was at all times. And they'd figure out who they were. That'd have been the first thing I'd have done. I wonder what she did. I'd be talking to them and getting compensation for if she had to get stitches or anything else. That's freaking ridiculous. Who? She was one of the CMs at Bungie for a while, Dirty Evan Hippie. She got a big gash in her head. She says somebody at the airport threw something at her. That's freaking insane. Like, they probably recognized her, and some weirdo unhinged Bungie fan or Destiny fan, I don't know. Yeah, once you're in those buildings, you'd never get away with that in almost any airport. And you'd have to get in. You'd have to basically not drive because there's cameras everywhere. As soon as your car is on the premises, parking garage, driving up. If you did that, if you drove up, got out of your car, went inside, sucker punched somebody, and then ran to your car and drove off, they would know who you are within the hour. They'd be able to back walk where you were, see your car, driver's license, and they'd know exactly who you are. Even if it's a rental, they'd be able to figure that out too. Like there's no way. There's no way they wouldn't be able to figure it out. I'll be at that airport Thursday. Whenever I hear that somebody's been attacked, I just assume it's an Argentinian footballer. Well, if it was an Argentinian footballer, they would have pulled down on her shirt and then flopped and acted like she hurt them. So I don't think it was an Argentinian footballer. They actually threw from far away. And, Argentinians weren't really hitting the target, Hilly. So I don't think it was an Argentinian footballer. People attacking people over video games should be institutionalized. Yeah, again, that's insane. People that do that, like verbally accosting somebody like that in public or physically accosting them, like, you got freaking mental problems, bro. You need to get therapy. That's crazy. Airport workers can't just grab someone, only airport security can. Well, that's what I mean. They're usually all around. Like, I'm regularly feeling like we're good. Like, I never feel like I consistently see K9 units at the Tampa airport, at Louisville airport. So I consistently see K9 units. I consistently see TSA. Like, and they'll come out of doors in places where, like, you don't even have access to. Like, I don't know. I've generally never felt like it's just a bunch of, like, flight attendants and pilots walking around. It's usually, like, a pretty heavy presence of security. Xbox 40th anniversary logo recreation based on Elite Pro controller. That's pretty cool. I think I saw that in my feed this morning. Cameras everywhere, face recognition, data centers, AI, police state coming soon. Thanks. Yeah, I wouldn't want to pull that up. That's watermarked. That's the kind of stuff that'll get Nintendo to come after your videos or your channel. Ain't trying to put that up on the screen. Well, we're close enough to 4 hours, boys, and we're kind of out of topics. There's not much going on in the feed. If that continues this week, it'll probably be the right week that I decided to make this trip. We got a family reunion going on up in Ohio, and it's also close enough to my dad's birthday. We're gonna, take some cards and presents up there for him. So we do try to regularly do uploads, and it's extremely helpful when you guys watch those and leave comments. And you do commonly, a lot of you guys I know are like, oh, I love the live chat, I love the live stream. You will get a comment from me and usually a reply when you leave comments on my videos. So keep your peepers open, boys. Keep your eyes open. There could be some uploads hitting the channel in the coming days, in the event something of significance happens. Thank you for the 20, the OA. I know you're rightfully avoiding the subject, but I want to comment that all weekend we listened to PSN is down, Sony bad. We can't play our games over and over, but I'm hearing nothing about the Xbox Live being down today. Well, number one, less consumers to complain. PlayStation has far more consumers to complain about it. Number two, you can't do performative outrage about not being able to play your games, even though that was a complete misrepresentation and lie that people kept perpetuating. Oh, you can't play your games because PSN's down. Yeah, that's not true. But, I just have consistently said the reason I find the discussion exhausting is people defend the position through dishonesty and bad faith, and they attack the opposition, and they just create straw men, and nobody's actually having a conversation. It's just, I don't know. It's emotion from its head to its toes. There's no logic, reason, or thoughtfulness. I just get burned out by it. If you had to predict units sold in 24 hours for Wolverine, what would it be? I don't know. I feel like it's opening weekends, not 24 hours. 24 hours is tough. Opening weekend, it'll probably pull what a lot of the games pull when they do well. Like that 3 million number seems pretty good for PlayStation games. Enjoy your trip. Thank you for the $2 Mike on a mic. And a single gifted. Yeah, we're going to have to really, really try to bounce that back when I return. We missed the goal last week, and then this week going out of town. So that's a bit of a double whammy. So we'll bounce it back next week. Shows will return and resume normal schedule program. So green room. We can do a little bit of a green room, but there's nothing to really discuss because there's no show tomorrow. So, but yeah, we can pile in the Discord and do a little bit of a green room. Subs and members are what make this work. I wouldn't be able to do this without direct support. So some of you guys celebrated some big milestones today. That's the only reason I'm able to do this. If you guys are watching this later, or you're watching right now, and you're not a member, you're not a contributor, and you can consider doing that. That really is that's been a continued need. And challenge for us in this environment is getting folks to kind of catch that vision. There seems to be a lot of animosity towards that subject, so that's just been a bit of a challenge. And so if you like the show and you're like, man, this is a great Safer Work podcast, and that is something you can do, consider supporting with a membership. If you're like, man, I just can't, totally understandable. We have people gifting all the time. I myself gift all the time. You very likely can get a membership that way. Thank you, Jaster, renewing a VIP for 49 months. So yeah, the continued support from gifteds and from re-ups, from members, from primes, it all contributes to us being able to do this full time. So it's no small thing to go live every day with you guys, and we put a lot of effort into it, and we try to give you guys as much as we can, which is why we also offer the Discord. That's another thing that's there for you to stay in touch with the community, stay in touch with me, and be part of green rooms and town halls and things like that. That is another reason the Discord is there. We try to give you guys about as much as we possibly can, so that you feel like you're getting a lot of value out of what you support. So we will be there in just a brief moment in the Discord. And that's also a great way to stay in touch when I take a break or I'm out of town or the schedule changes. There's not a great way of communicating with you on the channel for that. We use the Discord for that. So, great reason to be in the Discord. All right? Take care. Be safe. Play some video games and maybe get some work done this week because I won't be here. All right? Take care.